Alright, hi everyone. Welcome to an offline video where we're going to discuss how do we finish the front end of Brainly. Last week we did the back end. This week we are going to finish the front end of Brainly. If you don't have context, go through last week's videos where we've built the back end and discussed a little bit about writing front ends in TypeScript. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. The first thing you have to do is have MongoDB running locally or in a cloud environment. Either is fine. I usually start MongoDB locally using Docker. This is the command to do it. But if you want to get a MongoDB URL from cloud.mongodb.org, that is also fine. You don't have to run it locally. It's just more convenient for me. The speed is a little bit higher if it is running on my machine, which is why I am running MongoDB locally. Using Docker, you can run it locally. Without using Docker, you can get a cloud instance for free as well. While this is happening, let me take you through the context of what we built last week. This is what the folder structure looks like from last week. Brainly frontend, we will start from scratch. We didn't build much last week. So, I'll get rid of all the files from last week. We'll rebuild it from scratch. The backend, we had a simple index.ts file where we had written the sign up endpoint, sign in endpoint, content endpoint that lets you post content, create content, get content endpoint, which lets you get all of your existing content pieces, delete content that lets you delete any content that you have posted in the past. And these two endpoints we hadn't built. So we'll be building these first, then we'll move on to the front end. For those of you who don't know what application we are building, let me quickly take you through it. This is the application. It's called Building a Second Brain. I repeat, Building a Second Brain, an application where you can come and post any Twitter thread that you might have read, any YouTube video that you might have looked at, any Google Doc you might have seen that you find interesting and you might want to see in the future. It's like a link storage application. It's what my WhatsApp looks like right now. In my WhatsApp, I have a group with myself where I keep posting all the interesting messages or interesting things that I look at. I also have this GitHub repository of what I am reading where I post a bunch of, things that I'm reading on a day-to-day basis. So if you go to my repository and search for what I'm learning, you'll find a bunch of these links. Now we want to create a website for it. It looks something like this. It'll have a bunch of existing posts, Twitter posts, YouTube videos that I've posted, and an option for that lets me add more content in here and share my brain with other people. If I click on this, it will generate a shareable link. I can share that link with my friends and they can look at all the links that I've stored in my personal brain, my personal link inventory. This is what we're trying to build. We have already built most of it. This shareable part we have not built in the backend. So let's complete the /v1/brain/share endpoint. The user can hit this endpoint whenever they click on this specific button, and we will generate a shareable link for them. If you look at the API spec in the backend, I have this specific API endpoint, create a shareable link for your second brain. It expects a body as an input. If you send share true, it means you're asking the backend to generate a shareable link. If it sends false, it means you want to hide your brain from the world now. Now the link should no longer be accessible. So what would this /API v1 brain share endpoint get? It would get share in rec.body. Now I can do this, or I can do const share equal to rec.body.share. Okay, whether or not the person wants to enable or disable link sharing. One important thing about this endpoint is it needs to be authenticated. Only a person who is logged in should be allowed to hit this endpoint. When they do hit this endpoint, you need to now make an entry into a database. If you remember the database schema, which again is in the Notion doc, we had a links table. This is the thing we have to implement next. Okay, what are the links that have been generated for various users? A user can have a shareable link that they can share with the world. It's more of a one-to-one mapping here. Every user will have one shareable link. Every shareable link will be for one user. So actually you don't need to have them in two separate databases. You can have this directly here. ID, username, password, link. That also works. Or if you want to get fancy, you can create a separate links table. So let's do that. Let's go to our database.ts, which currently has the user schema, which is this table right here, the content schema, which is this table right here. Tags we have not yet implemented. That is another thing we should implement. Links is what we are implementing. So I will have to create a new links schema over here. And what will it have? It will have a hash and a user ID. A hash, which is a unique string that we generate for the user, and a user ID, which again is a reference to the users table. This user ID, you can store it as a string if you want. You can store it as an object ID if you want. But what we are saying is, yeah, type to is object ID, but it refers the users table. This specific schema it refers. Where does references come into the picture? We will see very soon. What is the point of doing this? इसके बिना भी तो चल रहा है. इसके बिना चल रहा है. You can work without this as well, but this will give you some benefits, which you will see very soon. And if you want to read about them already, you can read about populating relationships over here. We have defined a relationship here. We have defined a relationship here. We will populate this relationship very soon. Okay? Let's go back to index.ts. And now what do I have to do? Here, if share is true, then I want to generate a shareable link for the user. So what I can do is I can actually set this to be unique. Here, एक user की एक ही entry होगी. Link schema will have only one entry for a user. So this is the schema that I've generated. I have to create a model for it as well. So export const link model equal to model. I'm going to call it links and link schema. Something like this. Link model is what I can import over here. And I can write link model dot create. And what all entries do I need to put in? The user's ID that I can find in rec dot user ID. Because user middleware will extract readable, more comprehensive कि ये file ये करती है. Utils में तो people put anything. I am going to put export function random, which will, let's say, take a length as an input. Length will be a number, and it will generate a string of this length, a random string of this length. That will be our hash. Can you think of a way to write this function? Let options equal to, something like this. And for, or let answer equal to empty string, for let I equal to 0, I less than length, I plus plus, answer plus equal to options, pick a random character. I want a random character to be picked. How can you pick that? If this is options, a very big string, what is the length of this options string? Options dot length. So can I do this here for I equal to 0, I less than the original length? अगर बंदे को 3 लेंथ की चाहिए तो for I equal to 0, I less than 3 I plus plus, pick a random math.random. Math.random क्या return करेगा? It returns you a number between 0 and 1. It returns you something like this, 0.2, 0.123, 123, something like this. तो मैं क्या कहूँगा कि this number into the length of this array. What will this give me? This will give me a number between 0 to, let's say, 20, if this is the length of this specific array or a string. If this string is 20 in length, math.random into length will give me a number between 0 and 20. I don't want a decimal number. I want an integral number. So what I can do is math.floor. What this will do is, it will give me an integer between 0 and 20. This thing that you see inside the brackets, options of a random number between 0 and 20. add that to answer, return answer over here. That is how we have defined our random function. Now if I go to index.ts, I can say कि यार you are going to be a random string of length 10, let's say. That's how we generate the URL. And if the user wants to disable the URL, then what do we have to do? I can simply do link model dot delete or delete one, जहाँ पे यूजर आई डी इज रेक डॉट यूजर आई डी. क्या इस यूजर का जो भी एंट्री है इन द लिंक्स मॉडल, प्लीज डिलीट दैट. एंड देन रेस्ट डॉट जेसॉन मैसेज अपडेटेड शेयर्ड लिंक or shareable link. I should await this. This is a database call. I should await this. This is a database call. If I want to put await inside a function, I need to make that function asynchronous. That is how we have written the /API/v1/brain/share endpoint. Let's see, does it work? Let me start the application. npm run dev. If you remember, hopefully, what npm run dev does. I was trying something before the video, that's why you saw that error. Now let me go to Postman. This started my backend. Let me quickly go to Postman. Try to quickly sign up. Let's see if we have some test endpoints from the other day. I think this is it, maybe. I don't know. What is our sign up endpoint? Our sign up endpoint is /API/v1/signup. So let me send a request to /API/v1/signup. Body mein, what does it expect? It probably expects username and password. Username harkirat@gmail.com. Password 123123. If I send a post request, nothing happens. Most probably the backend crashes. Probably because my database isn't up, is my guess. Yeah, Mongo server connection, refused connection. This probably means MongoDB hasn't even cloned on my machine yet. Like, it's bringing the MongoDB image. My internet is slow, which is why it's taking a long time. So we will wait. I hope this will work as expected. Meanwhile, while this downloads, I will move on to the next endpoint. This is the endpoint कि यार जब मैंने share कर दिया link, when I have shared my link with the world, when I have clicked on this link and shared it with a friend, my friend will go to that link. That will be the link of a website. And then that website will hit the backend. If this shareable link led to, blog.com/share/something like this, a random ID. When the user goes here, this should send a request to the backend to get back my brain. जो भी मेरा brain है, that needs to be retrievable based on this random hash that we are generating here. यहाँ पे हम एक hash generate कर रहे हैं जो हम database में store कर रहे हैं. Over here, this hash is being generated put in the database. The user is sharing this hash, or more technically, a full URL, blog.com/share/ whatever that hash is, with the world. And then the world, whoever is visiting at, they will hit this endpoint to get back the details of that brain. तो यहाँ पे हम क्या करेंगे? This is a completely open endpoint. You don't need to be logged in to see it. We will say const, let's see. We need this ID first. So hash equal to rec.params.shareLink. That's how you get a URL parameter like this. We'll hit the database to see, is there any entry for this hash? Await links schema, links model dot find. जहाँ पे can probably do find one, where the hash is equal to the hash that the user is looking for. I can write it like this, or I can write it like this. Either is fine. If I'm awaiting, I need to make the function async as well. Since there's an await here, there needs to be an async here. And I can write const links equal to this. Then, or link equal to this. Here comes the power of aggregations. अब यहाँ पे मुझे करना क्या पड़ेगा? Ideally, I will have to write 3 requests. कि यार कॉन्स्ट यूजर इक्वल टू, अब देखो लिंक तो मिल गया होपफुली, अगर लिंक नहीं मिला मतलब ये हैश गलत है. इफ नॉट लिंक then for sure this hash is incorrect. So I can simply say rest.status 411.json message sorry incorrect input. Probably look for a better status code over here. If it does exist, मतलब हमें यूजर आईडी तो मिल गई, अब इस यूजर आईडी का हमें ब्रेन निकालना है. So what will I do? I will then do const brain or whatever content equal to await content model dot find where the user id is this user id that's part of link dot user id. Link link is probably null. I can just return over here, then the TypeScript error would go away. If I was not returning over here, TypeScript was telling me कि यार ये link null हो सकता है, पर ये तो check मैंने यहाँ कर लिया. If link is not null, then we want to return this and we want to stop execution. I can also put this inside an else, तब भी चल जाएगा. I can also do this if this feels easier to read. Although this early return is a pattern in JavaScript कि you should early return. अगर आपको else में ही डालना है उससे बेहतर है save a level of indentation, save a level of indentation and early return over here. This is called early returning. Get the content and simply return the content to the user. Let's confirm what the schema looks like in the Notion doc. In the Notion doc, the schema says username and the content. So what can I return? I can return something like username. अब मुझे user की information भी चाहिए. So I will have to also get const user equal to await user model dot find one where user id is link dot user id. तो हमने स्टार्ट तो लिंक से किया कि हमें लिंक चाहिए. डेटाबेस ने हमें क्या लौटाया? द डेटाबेस ओनली रिटर्न्ड अस these two things because that is what is stored in the links database. कुछ और stored ही नहीं है. Then I had to get all their contents. Then I had to get all the user information. That is why I had to do 3 separate sequential database requests to finally be able to return to the username and the content. So this works. Harkiyat, what is question mark dot over here? This is called optional chaining. Basically user can also be null. वैसे तो नहीं होगा. अगर user ID आई है that means this user ID exists in the database. हमने यहाँ क्या रखा है ना कि user ID references the users table. तो अगर link dot user ID is something that will refer to something in the users database. So this will always exist. But TypeScript doesn't know that. TypeScript is like यार क्या पता there is no user with this specific ID. ये तो हमें पता है कि logically it cannot happen. But TypeScript doesn't know that. तो TypeScript says कि भाई मुझे explicitly बताओ कि अगर user नहीं मिला तो क्या करना है. And then again you can early return. You can send something like user not found. Error should ideally not happen. कुछ तो issue ही होगा अगर यहाँ पे control आ गया. क्योंकि अगर link exist करता है तो it will be for a user जो भी exist करता है. Unless मान लो यूजर ने डिलीट कर दिया अकाउंट और हमने ढंग से कैस्केड नहीं किया. इफ द यूजर एवर डिलीट्स देयर अकाउंट एंड वी डिलीट द एंट्री फ्रॉम दिस डेटाबेस बट डोंट डिलीट द कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंग एंट्रीज फ्रॉम दिस डेटाबेस, then it can happen. But you don't really delete entries usually in a database, which is why the control should never reach here. But चलो आ भी सकता है अगर इनकेस आ गया तो नहीं आ सकता, पर अगर आ भी गया वी आर कैचिंग इट. नाउ आई डोंट नीड ऑप्शनल चेनिंग हियर. अब यूजर इस पॉइंट पे एग्जिस्ट करेगा ही करेगा. But if I comment this, then TypeScript begins to error out कि यार user is possibly null. User null भी हो सकता है. But if I early return here, अगर user null है तो यही return कर दूंगा. Then यहाँ पे user will definitely exist. And then I return that back to the user. Does this work? Is there anything wrong in this? There's nothing wrong in this. It's too many lines of code one after the other. And it's slightly more unoptimal than what we can do because we are using references. क्योंकि हम references यूज कर रहे हैं, because we are using references, we can make this syntax slightly cleaner, but this is also not wrong. कि पहले links database से entry निकालो, फिर content and then the users table, make 3 separate sequential one after the other database calls, and then if the user doesn't exist, return this, else return their brain to whoever was asking for it. Save it. Let's see, does it compile? It does compile. Let's see, is our MongoDB up? Still happening. So we will wait for this to finish. Then we will test the backend. Then we will move on to the front end. All right, let me overwhelm you with some logs. Don't worry about the logs. The docker run -p 27017:27017 Mongo command just succeeded for me. This basically means MongoDB is running on my local machine. And how can I confirm? If I open MongoDB Compass, you can see I have a fresh MongoDB instance over here. I'm connected to localhost colon 27017. Now comes the begging question of are our endpoints doing what they're supposed to? Let's see. npm run dev. What is the mongoose.ts file? Where is it? db.ts. Where are we connecting to? Localhost colon 27017 slash brainly. So let's try to create some users, sign up, sign in. User sign up works as expected. Sign in, user sign in works as expected. Let's try to create some content. Content expects, wait, how did this work with such bad usernames and passwords? Undefined username and password I was signing up with. We should have better checks in there. That is why there is a to do. This should be username and this should be password. Let's try it one more time. Sign up works. If I sign up again with the same, it says user already exists. Sign in works. I get back the token, copy the token. Try to create content. What does content expect as input? Content expects link and the type of content. So link is going to be, let's say, some Twitter thread. And type is going to be Twitter. Send it. Content added. Let's try to get all the content that I have. Wait, content added happened without me putting something in the headers. It happened for a different user from my old session. I have updated the authorization header with my recent token. And now let me try to add get content. I have none. Post content. I was able to add some link over there, get content. I get back my very first link. Okay, this specific link was created by this user, Harkirat. This is the username of that specific user. Content addition and content getting was working before also. This we did last week. Question is, does shareable link work now? Let's try that. Let me flip on sharing. So I'm going to call API v1 brain share, and here I'm going to set share to be true. Send, and it says sorry, incorrect inputs, which means the control reached where? Oh, it's a get request. My bad. Post request. And it says updated shareable link. One thing we should do is this should return me the shareable link. This should return share. Removed link. And here I should do message. The actual path to the link /share/ let's just put this inside a variable const hash equal to this. Hash is this /share/hash. Let's restart the application so that the user gets a more informative message. Now, if I go here and try to create a shareable link, it dies. Server dies because duplicate key. It already exists. It is expected. A user shouldn't be able to create two लिंक्स. सो अगर वो फिर से क्रिएट करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, उसको ओरिजिनल वाला रिटर्न कर दो. सो व्हाट कैन यू डू ओवर हियर? 1 second. Hello. You have to do is put this inside a try catch, because this can throw an error. The user can send you this request twice. That shouldn't break our server. We should just let the user know तुम्हारा hash तो already exist करता है. So we can either do this, put this inside a try catch, or we can check क्या भाई already exist करता है. Await link model dot find one, जहाँ पे user ID is rec dot user ID. Cons existing link equal to this. If existing link अगर already exist करता है, then what do we do? We say यार ये रहा आपका link का hash. This is the hash. You have already generated it. Don't generate it again. Hash is existing link dot hash. If it doesn't exist, then we generate it, put it in the database. If it already exists, user को उनका पुराना hash हम लौटा देते हैं. If you are really smart or curious, you will see a race condition here. If the same person sends this request twice, then some bad things will happen. We'll come to that when we reach some advanced projects later on. For now, this is good enough. Let's try to restart it. npm run dev. Let's see, is this share endpoint working as expected now? If I go to Postman, send a request, it returns me hash 323. Now that's really small of a hash. Should be slightly longer because this random is coming from some other place. I need to import this random function from utils.ts. So let me go to the top of my file and be like import random from /utils. Server crashed. मैंने random 2 जगह से कर लिया. Let me remove the other random import that came. Haha, random import that came. Still returns hash 323 because वो एक बार बन गया था. Let me set shareable to false now. Okay, I don't want my shareable link. Link has been removed. Let me set it to true again. And this time, slightly longer hash I want. This is my unique shareable link ka hash. Eventually, I will tell everyone कि यार please visit my brain on brainly.com/share/this unique hash. So this endpoint hopefully works as expected. Let's look at the database. क्या database में entry जा रही है? Let's refresh the database. Brainly has users. This is our main user. This to ignore, was made by mistake with undefined username and undefined password. Contents, I have 2 entries in here. Links, there is 1 entry here. This specific hash for this specific user ID. The last question is, can I fetch this specific brain for this specific user? कि अगर ये shareable link मेरे पास आया, तो can I get that user's brain information? What was the last endpoint? The last endpoint was app.get API v1 brain :share link. So API v1 brain and the shareable link of that specific user. If I send a get request, it says user not found. This shouldn't ideally happen, but अब हो रहा है, देखो. Let's see what happens. Link equal to await link model.find. तो हमें link तो मिल गया. But when we try to find content for this user ID and the user details for this user ID, also user equal to this thing. If not user, return this. Control is reaching here. Where link not user ID. I don't see anything wrong here. Let's try to log. Console.log link. Let's see it one more time. Restart the application. User ID is just an object ID. It's probably for that reason. Let's do this. .toString. Let's convert the object ID into a string and then try to find a user with this specific. Oh, actually that's not it. It needs to be underscore ID, right? User model. If you look at the user model, it has username, password and underscore ID. If I go to MongoDB, users table में क्या है? Underscore ID. There is no user ID here. There is an underscore ID, which is the way to uniquely identify it. So that is what you have to send here. Let's try it one more time. send. And now I get कि यार ये username का ये रहा brain. This is an open endpoint. Anyone can hit it. If I go to the headers, I can actually remove the authorization header. Still it works. This is an open endpoint. Anyone can hit it. My brain has been shared with anyone all around the world. They can hit this endpoint and get back the details of my brain. I have only one link over there right now. Good hai ji. Easy to digest. Backend is done. When we write the front end, some endpoints will make more sense. But abhi ke liye, let me show you the whole process again. You can sign up by hitting this endpoint /API/v1/signup. Let me create a new user, harkirat1@gmail.com. You can sign in with the same endpoint. When you sign in, you get back a token. Take the token and send a request to, let's say, create some content. This is the body of the content. This is the content that I'm trying to put. And in the authorization header, replace the JWT with your JWT. Send it. Content added. Let me add it 3 times. Now I can get back my content. Or if I make my content shareable, if I brain/share, if I send a request here and set share to be true. Oh, whoopsie daisy. Brain/share post request, and I set share to be true. It tells me, Harkirat, this is your public endpoint. Almost. It's the unique part of your endpoint. Endpoint will look like brainly.com/share/ a unique ID. Unique ID backend ने लौटा दी. बाकी सब तो front end ऐड कर देगा. Front end knows कि हाँ, I am hosted at a certain URL. वो उसके आगे /share/ this thing डाल देगा. So this is the unique thing that the front end needs to know of. बाकी front end will generate an endpoint that looks like, brainly.com/share/ this unique ID that the backend returned. When the user comes to our website and the user clicks on this share button, this request will go out, it will come back, and we will copy to the clip code brainly.com/share/ what the backend returned, which in this case, backend ने ये return किया. And if I go to /brainly/brain/ this ID, get request, I can get my own data, or even if there are no headers sent, it is an open endpoint. Anyone can get my brain because I've set it to shareable. Now, if I set it to shareable false, yeah, I don't want anyone else to look at my brain anymore. It says removed link now. Now, if I try to get it, sorry, incorrect inputs. Nahi mila bhai mujhe. Cool hai. That is our backend. It will make more sense once we reach the front end. So I think it makes sense for us to now build the front end from scratch again. I'll wipe off the project, restart the project, and we'll go from there. All right, folks, getting into the front end. This is what we made last week. We didn't make much. We just built a button. The class took a tangent. We started to make buttons, or a UI library more specifically. So, let's not go through this front end and what we built last week. Let's build it from scratch. Let me close everything. And let's restart a fresh application, a fresh React application. So cd projects /cohort 3 for me. And I'm going to do a npm create vite @latest. I'm going to call the project brainly-main-frontend. I'm going to select React as the framework. I'm going to select TypeScript as the language. And I'm going to open this in Visual Studio Code. Let's do an npm install. I'm going to sprint through this. Last week, we spent 2 hours doing one button. So go through that video to understand what we're doing, and everything else I'll slowly sprint through. Of course, I'll explain what I'm doing. While it is installing, let's get rid of all the CSS here. Let's get rid of all the CSS here. Let's create a completely empty React project. Let's get rid of, feel free to keep it as well. Feel free to remove this as well. Completely empty the root component, return div over here. And we're good to go. Hi there. Remove all the extra imports. app.tsx ekdam khali, app.css ekdam khali, index.css ekdam khali. Completely empty React project. Dependencies have been installed. When I run npm run dev and try to go here, I see hi there on the top left. Empty React project. What are we supposed to build? This. Can we build this in raw CSS? Yes. Should we? No. What will we use? We will use Tailwind. So go to tailwindcss.com. Get started. Select framework guides, considering we are using a framework, Vite, to bootstrap our project. This we have already run to bootstrap the project, opened it in Visual Studio Code. This I will run next. This installs a bunch of dev dependencies. That's what the capital -D is. Tailwind CSS, Post CSS, and Auto Prefixer. These three dependencies are needed to make Tailwind work with your React project. Then we tell Tailwind, actually I have to run npx tailwind css init also. So let me run that next. This command creates a tailwind.config.js. And here in tailwind.config.js, I have to tell Tailwind, okay, where are my React components present? Usually they are present here in ./source/any file that ends with js, ts, jsx, or tsx. One last thing you have to do is add these three directives in either one of them, either index.css or app.css, doesn't really matter. Let's put them in index.css over here. Whichever one is imported, for example, in app.css, I was importing app.css. Let me remove it. I don't need it anymore. I can also delete app.css completely. Index.css, I've added these three. Index.css is also imported here in main.tsx. This is our main root file. If you go back to the React classes, this is our rootest of the root file of React. इसके अंदर we import app, which is our second root application or root component, जहाँ पे we write all of our code. In our most entry point file, main.tsx, we import index.css, and यहाँ पे I have added these three directives, and that is how you initialize Tailwind in a React project. Let's see, is Tailwind initialized? To recap the steps, I just did everything that is mentioned over here, nothing extra. App.tsx mein, let me give it a class name equal to bg-red-300, which means a background color of red with a 300 tint, like a light version of red. Let's do npm run dev. And as you can see, I see a red color over here, which means Tailwind is initialized. Now let's quickly start to structure our components. Let me create a folder called components, inside which I'm going to create a button.tsx, because we have to create these two variants of buttons. Card.tsx, let me create another one. Oh, created it in the wrong folder. Let me pull it to components. And sidebar.tsx. Let's say these are the three high-level components we create. Actually, you can break this down even further. You can have a sidebar item component, which renders this or this or this or this. So let's do that also. Let's create a fourth component called sidebar component, or sidebar item actually. So what have I said? I have said, given this application that we're supposed to build, I am going to create a component for these items. This component would be called sidebar item. Create a component for this very big sidebar on the left. This we have called sidebar component. Create a component for all of these cards. This we are calling a card component. And create a generic component for both of these buttons, this button as well as this button. Both of them, we are creating a generic component called button, where we'll be writing all the code for this. Once these are written, stitching together the application is much easy. This is the hardest bit, creating these components. So let's quickly create all four of these components. We'll start off with buttons. This we already created last week. We spent 2 hours creating this. So if I sprint through this, if it feels fast, go last week. We went very slow over there. Button.tsx I will export function button. And the important thing to envision at this point is, here, what are my props going to be? What is this button component going to take as input? What is the shape of that? So I'm going to define a TypeScript interface called button props. And I'm going to say, there are two variants of my buttons, primary and secondary. So I'm going to take one thing as an input, which is a variant, which can be either primary or secondary. I'm going to take the inner text as an input. So let's call it text, which will be a string. I'm going to take a start icon as an input, which is going to be, if you remember from last week, what will this be? It will be a React element. React element means a React component. Start icon means कि इस बटन के शुरू में कौन सा आइकन आना चाहिए. If it feels confusing, last week's video we've discussed this in detail. Next, before I actually proceed to write some code here, let's bring these colors into our code base. There are a lot of colors over here that we need in our Tailwind config, so we can use them in Tailwind. So I will go to image to color, a website like this. I will copy all of these colors. This seems like a darker version of purple. Let me copy its hex and let me go to tailwind.config.js and यहाँ पे say कि यार in the theme I want to override the colors specifically. I want purple's 600th shade to be this. I want purple's 200th shade to be this. And if you look at it, there is another purple over here, which frankly looks very similar to, like, this purple and this purple look similar. But if I really hover over it, I don't know if they are. So let's just choose the darkest one here and take this as, I don't know, 500. The 500th shade looks like this. This we will use on the text of the secondary button. This we will use as the background of the primary button. This we will use as the background of the secondary button. Then there is this gray background. Copy this. Gray in Tailwind is called the slate variant. So if you want to see all of this, just search for colors in Tailwind and you will see their complete color guide. So slate, as you can see, oh, there is gray also, like either is fine. Then slate is actually seems like a small tint of blue in there. So you can use gray also, you can use slate also for a gray variant. So I'm going to, let's say, override gray's, I don't know, 200th shade to be this. And what other colors do we have? This is a lighter shade of gray. So maybe the 100th shade to be this. And this text color is another variant of gray. So let's maybe call it the 600th version or 600th variant, which is this. Anything else? Not really. Everything else looks decent. Well, there is another gray here, which seems even lighter. Well, this and this look very close, but seems like they're not. This actually might just be white. Yeah, this is just white. So that should be fine. Yeah, I think we have all our colors. This and this. There's one more here for the tags, but we can just assume it to be the same as this color. So I think we have all our colors in our Tailwind config. Let's proceed to finishing the button component. We're going to say कि यार ये जो props में क्या क्या आ सकता है. We have a button that can have one of two variants, this color or this color. So the user will either give us, and to make this even more readable, I can destructure props over here and have variant, text and start icon as destructured over here. And यहाँ पे I can say कि यार I want to return a button only. Return तो मुझे button ही करना है. But I want to give it some styles based on this variant. अगर ये variant, now this syntax again, go back to last week's video if it feels a little jarring. And let me just make it easy. If variant is, primary, then I want the background color to be bg-purple-600th variant, the darker version of purple. But if the variant is secondary, then I want the background color to be the lighter version of purple. So I can do this and have a very long string like this. Okay, acha, ye to dalna hi hai. And also I want what is the background color text color in the primary button variant? It is white. So text-white. What is the text color here? It is some darker variant of purple. So text-purple-400. I can do this, have like a ternary operator like this. But there are two problems here. Number one, this becomes so long and ugly to read. Number two, what if we add a third variant? तो क्या करोगे? Tertiary, or danger button, which is like a red button usually, or let's say success button, which is a green button. So how many if else's, how many ternary operators will you have over here? So we discussed this last week. For this, we can create a global project, global object के const variant classes equal to primary का style तो भाई ये है. A primary button will need to have these styles with it. A secondary button will need to have these styles in it. And यहाँ पे I can simply say कि यार class name is variant classes of the variant. अगर primary variant आया है तो ये वाला style should copy over here. If the variant is secondary, the prop that is being passed in is secondary, so this text should come over here. And inside this, what will I render in the button? I will render the text. Abhi ke liye, let's ignore start icon. Let's see, does this work? Have we created a generic button component or not already? Let's go to app.tsx and try to render the button component. Button variant equal to primary, text equal to, what is the text over here? Add content. And that's it, let's say, for now. And then another one which is secondary, where the text is share. If I now look at the application, sort of something we have, colors look very off, bunch of things we need to fix. Firstly, let's get rid of this, but it's getting there. Let's fix the rest of the things. Number one, this color looks totally off for the secondary button. तो जो हमारा secondary button है, I think its text is purple 200. No, 600 only. Yeah, that looks slightly better. Needs to have a padding. So let's add padding to both the buttons. Should I do it like this? Padding over here also, padding over here also. I'm just repeating code then, right? If there is something that is applicable to both the variants, I can add another set of styles here. Default styles, which will have things like horizontal padding, I want to be, let's say, 4. Vertical padding, I want it to be 2. And I want it to be rounded dash MD, which means some borders on the right, rounded borders on the right, all around the button. And I'm going to say, I want this plus I want some more classes, which are these default styles. I want variant के styles. अगर primary variant आया तो I want this. Plus I want the default styles. अगर secondary variant आया है तो I want this. Plus I want the default styles. So now if I go over here, wow, fucking so close. देख रहे हो इतना सा change can make your buttons go from ugly to beautiful. Looks pretty decent. What is missing? Number one clear thing I can see is, okay, if you go back to the design, the text is a little bit thinner. The font weight here is much higher. So let's make the font weight lesser. Font weight Tailwind. You have to Google this. I don't even remember. I know it'll probably be font strength or something like this. I want the font weight to be maybe 400. So font dash normal class I need to add. Let's add font dash normal here to the default styles. And let's see, did that make it thinner? Not really. Let's make it even thinner. So font dash light. That looks decent. Share button and add content button look decent. The only thing that is left is adding an icon in front of them. Yahan pe, if you cut it, there is an icon here, there is an icon here. We are also taking that as a prop, start icon, but we haven't yet rendered it. So let's render the start icon over here. यही तो करना है. क्या करना है कि टेक्स्ट के लेफ्ट पे स्टार्ट आइकन रेंडर हो जाए. Whatever comes in as the icon gets rendered right next to the text. There will be some flaws over here. We will fix it. And again, if this is very jarring, last week we have covered the same thing in 2 hours. App.tsx. I now need to pass the start icon over here. Okay, my icon in the button needs to look like this or this. The question is, where do I get these icons from? From the internet, a free resource. Just search for icons Tailwind. You'll reach the resources section of Tailwind, and they suggest a few libraries to be able to get icons and SVGs. Hero icons is the one that we use. So here, if I go and search for what do we need? We need a plus icon and a share icon. So I'll search for plus icon over here. Too many mosquitoes here. Search isn't working, but we will search through over here and I'm sure there you go. This is the plus icon. I can copy SVG over here. And this will copy the scalable vector graphic of it. What is a scalable vector graphic? Again, go to last week's video, but I'll give you a TLDR. It's very similar to PNGs or JPEGs, only it is scalable. You can zoom in a lot into it. Even if you zoom in, extremely into any one of these SVGs, it will not pixelate. But that doesn't happen for PNGs or JPEGs. If you ever have an image, उसके अंदर ज़्यादा zoom करोगे, वो फटने लग जाएगी. This will not pixelate. That is why you use SVGs. Copy SVG. Go back to the code base. And now in the code base, introduce a new folder called icons. Okay, यहाँ पे हम अपने सारे icons store करेंगे. Introduce the very first icon over here called plus icon.tsx. And return the SVG from here. Okay, this plus icon is just going to return this SVG, this scalable vector graphic. Similarly, introduce another icon here called share icon. Export function share icon. It needs to return a share icon. So let's search. There you go. This looks very close to what we want. Copy the SVG. Return it from here. The one thing you have to do in React is replace class with class name. Same thing needs to happen here. Class with class name. And now we have two components, plus icon and share icon. I can render them independently if I want. I can render them independently. Component है वो simple. मैं अलग से भी render कर सकता हूँ. Share icon. If I render the share icon and of course import it over here, then notice, what do I see here? I see add content, share, and then the share icon over here. So I can render it independently. But what do we want? We want to pass it as a start icon. Start icon is equal to share icon. And यहाँ पे start icon equal to plus icon. Cool. What have we done? We created a generic button component. We've been using it over here to render buttons that look like this. Very close to what we want. थोड़े से फट गए, but very close to what we want. What is the thing we need to change? We need to put them right next to each other. How do you do it? What is happening in button.tsx? You're rendering two inline items right next to each other. How can you fix it? Flexbox, right? Just add display flex over here, which in Tailwind is add the flex class over here. And you will notice both the buttons work as expected. Of course, the share icon is a little too big. Even the add icon, I would say, is a little too big. So you can go to the share icon and change the class name to be size-4. That looks decent-ish. You can go to the other icon, which is plus icon, make it size-4. That's a little too small, so size-5. That looks decent. Now there's another problem. Number one, there is not enough space between these two. Number two, they're not vertically aligned to the center. ये थोड़ा less space here, more space over here. Less space here, more space over here. How do you fix this? Again, we did this last week. Whenever you set flex, you can set justify dash center to align the items in the center horizontally. They're already in the center horizontally. What we want is items dash center to align them vertically in the center. Horizontal center कैसे करते हैं? Justify center. Vertical center कैसे करते हैं? Items dash center. Now, this plus icon is vertically aligned, share icon is vertically aligned. Only thing that is left is कि थोड़ा सा padding देनी है इसके right पे. So can I do this div class name equal to pr-2, some padding towards the right of it, and my add content and share button are done. Let's compare them to this thing, add content, share brain. So let me change the text over here to be share brain. And you have two buttons that look pretty good. You just have to place them on the right. That is the simple bit. Stitching it all together is easy. Let's finish the components first. Stitching it together is going to be a piece of cake. Done with the button component. Now you can make it fancy. Okay, on hover, the color changes. When you click on it, a ripple comes out. 10 different things you can do to style it even better based on the designs. But visually, this and this are close. Now the color looks very off to me. This looks like a blue tint more than a purple tint. But okay, we can always tweak the colors later. What else is left? Sidebar and card component. Can we kick things off with the card component? Let's create a generic card component, which takes, this title as the input and icon as the input. And under ka content, we will render based on if it's a Twitter link, if it is a YouTube link. If it is a YouTube link, we'll render the YouTube video over here. If it is a Twitter link, we will render the tweet over here. Let's do something fancy like that. Okay? So it will take the link as the input, the type as the input. Is it a Twitter tweet? Is it a YouTube video? Or title as an input, and this icon as an input. All right. Icon भी उसको लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. As long as it knows the type. If it is a tweet, it will render tweet over here. If it is a YouTube video, it will render this over here. So on and so forth. Okay? So let's try to design this card component next. All right, folks, getting into the front end. This is what we made last week. We didn't make much. We just built a button. The class took a tangent. We started to make buttons or a UI library more specifically. So, let's not go through this front end and what we built last week. Let's build it from scratch. Let me close everything. And let's restart a fresh application, a fresh React application. So cd projects / cohort 3 for me. And I'm going to do a npm create vite @latest. I'm going to call the project brainly-main-frontend. I'm going to select React as the framework. I'm going to select TypeScript as the language. And I'm going to open this in Visual Studio Code. Let's do an npm install. I'm going to sprint through this. Last week, we spent 2 hours doing one button. So go through that video to understand what we're doing. And everything else, I'll slowly sprint through. Of course, I'll explain what I'm doing. While it is installing, let's get rid of all the CSS here. Let's get rid of all the CSS here. Let's create a completely empty React project. Let's get rid of, feel free to keep it as well. Feel free to remove this as well. Completely empty the root component, return div over here. And we're good to go. Hi there. Remove all the extra imports. app.tsx ekdam khali, app.css ekdam khali, index.css ekdam khali. Completely empty React project. Dependencies have been installed. When I run npm run dev and try to go here, I see hi there on the top left. Empty React project. What are we supposed to build? This. Can we build this in raw CSS? Yes. Should we? No. What will we use? We will use Tailwind. So go to tailwindcss.com. Get started. Select framework guides, considering we are using a framework, Vite, to bootstrap our project. This we have already run to bootstrap the project, opened it in Visual Studio Code. This I will run next. This installs a bunch of dev dependencies. That's what the capital -D is. Tailwind CSS, Post CSS, and Auto Prefixer. These 3 dependencies are needed to make Tailwind work with your React project. Then we tell Tailwind, actually I have to run npx tailwind css init also. So let me run that next. This command creates a tailwind.config.js. And here in tailwind.config.js, I have to tell Tailwind, okay, where are my React components present? Usually they are present here in ./source/any file that ends with js, ts, jsx, or tsx. One last thing you have to do is add these 3 directives in either one of them, either index.css or app.css, doesn't really matter. Let's put them in index.css over here. Whichever one is imported. For example, in app.css, I was importing app.css. Let me remove it. I don't need it anymore. I can also delete app.css completely. Index.css, I've added these 3. Index.css is also imported here in main.tsx. This is our main root file. If you go back to the React classes, this is our rootest of the root file of React. इसके अंदर we import app, which is our second root application or root component, जहाँ पे we write all of our code. In our most in entry point file main.tsx, we import index.css, and यहाँ पे I have added these three directives, and that is how you initialize Tailwind in a React project. Let's see, is Tailwind initialized? To recap the steps, I just did everything that is mentioned over here, nothing extra. app.tsx mein, let me give it a class name equal to bg-red-300, which means a background color of red with a 300 tint, like a light version of red. Let's do npm run dev. And as you can see, I see a red color over here, which means Tailwind is initialized. Now let's quickly start to structure our components. Let me create a folder called components, inside which I'm going to create a button.tsx, because we have to create these two variants of buttons. Card.tsx, let me create another one. Oh, created it in the wrong folder. Let me pull it to components. And sidebar.tsx. Let's say these are the three high-level components we create. Actually, you can break this down even further. You can have a sidebar item component, which renders this or this or this or this. So let's do that also. Let's create a fourth component called sidebar component, or sidebar item actually. So what have I said? I have said, given this application that we're supposed to build, I am going to create a component for these items. This component will be called sidebar item. Create a component for this very big sidebar on the left. This we have called sidebar component. Create a component for all of these cards. This we are calling a card component. And create a generic component for both of these buttons, this button as well as this button. Both of them, we are creating a generic component called button, where we'll be writing all the code for this. Once these are written, stitching together the application is much easy. This is the hardest bit, creating these components. So let's quickly create all four of these components. We'll start off with buttons. This we already created last week. We spent 2 hours creating this. So if I sprint through this, if it feels fast, go last week. We went very slow over there. Button.tsx mein I will export function button. And the important thing to envision at this point is, here, what are my props going to be? What is this button component going to take as input? What is the shape of that? So I'm going to define a TypeScript interface called button props. And I'm going to say, there are 2 variants of my buttons, primary and secondary. So I'm going to take one thing as an input, which is a variant, which can be either primary or secondary. I'm going to take the inner text as an input. So let's call it text, which will be a string. I'm going to take a start icon as an input, which is going to be, if you remember from last week, what will this be? It will be a React element. React element means a React component. Start icon means कि इस button के शुरू में कौन सा icon आना चाहिए. If it feels confusing, last week's video we've discussed this in detail. Next, before I actually proceed to write some code here, let's bring these colors into our code base. There are a lot of colors over here that we need in our Tailwind config, so we can use them in Tailwind. So I will go to image to color, a website like this. I will copy all of these colors. This seems like a darker version of purple. Let me copy its hex. And let me go to tailwind.config.js. And यहाँ पे say कि in the theme, I want to override the colors specifically. I want purple's 600th shade to be this. I want purple's 200th shade to be this. And if you look at it, there is another purple over here, which frankly looks very similar to, like, this purple and this purple look similar. But if I really hover over it, I don't know if they are. So let's just choose the darkest one here and take this as, I don't know, 500. The 500th shade looks like this. This we will use on the text of the secondary button. This we will use as the background of the primary button. This we will use as the background of the secondary button. Then there is this gray background. Copy this. Gray in Tailwind is called the slate variant. So if you want to see all of this, just search for colors in Tailwind and you will see their complete color guide. So slate, as you can see, oh, there is gray also, like either is fine. Then slate is actually seems like a small tint of blue in there. So you can use gray also, you can use slate also for a gray variant. So I'm going to, let's say, override gray's, I don't know, 200th shade to be this. And what other colors do we have? This is a lighter shade of gray. So maybe the 100th shade to be this. And this text color is another variant of gray. So let's maybe call it the 600th version or 600th variant, which is this. Anything else? Not really. Everything else looks decent. Well, there is another gray here, which seems even lighter. Well, this and this look very close, but seems like they're not. This actually might just be white. Yeah, this is just white. So that should be fine. Yeah, I think we have all our colors. This and this. There's one more here for the tags, but we can just assume it to be the same as this color. So I think we have all our colors in our Tailwind config. Let's proceed to finishing the button component. We're going to say कि यार जो props में क्या क्या आ सकता है. We have a button that can have one of two variants, this color or this color. So the user will either give us, and to make this even more readable, I can destructure props over here and have variant, text and start icon as destructured over here. And यहाँ पे I can say कि यार I want to return a button only. Return तो मुझे button ही करना है. But I want to give it some styles based on this variant. अगर ये variant, now this syntax again, go back to last week's video if it feels a little jarring. And let me just make it easy. If variant is, primary, then I want the background color to be BG-purple-600th variant, the darker version of purple. But if the variant is secondary, then I want the background color to be the lighter version of purple. So I can do this and have a very long string like this. Okay, acha, ye to dalna hi hai. And also I want what is the background color text color in the primary button variant? It is white. So text-white. What is the text color here? It is some darker variant of purple. So text-purple-400. I can do this. Have like a ternary operator like this. But there are two problems here. Number one, this becomes so long and ugly to read. Number two, what if we add a third variant? तो क्या करोगे? Tertiary. Or danger button, which is like a red button usually, or let's say success button, which is a green button. So how many if else's, how many ternary operators will you have over here? So we discussed this last week. For this, we can create a global object के const variant classes equal to primary का style तो भाई ये है. A primary button will need to have these styles with it. A secondary button will need to have these styles in it. And यहाँ पे I can simply say कि यार class name is variant classes of the variant. अगर primary variant आया है तो ये वाला style should copy over here. If the variant is secondary, the prop that is being passed in is secondary, so this text should come over here. And inside this, what will I render in the button? I will render the text. Abhi ke liye, let's ignore start icon. Let's see, does this work? Have we created a generic button component or not already? Let's go to app.tsx and try to render the button component. Button variant equal to primary, text equal to, what is the text over here? add content, and that's it. Let's say for now, and then another one which is secondary, where the text is share. If I now look at the application, sort of something we have. Colors look very off. Bunch of things we need to fix. Firstly, let's get rid of this. But it's getting there. Let's fix the rest of the things. Number one, this color looks totally off for the secondary button. तो जो हमारा secondary button है, I think its text is purple 200. No, 600 only. Yeah, that looks slightly better. Needs to have a padding. So let's add padding to both the buttons. Should I do it like this? Padding over here also, padding over here also. I'm just repeating code then, right? If there is something that is applicable to both the variants, I can add another set of styles here. Default styles, which will have things like horizontal padding, I want to be, let's say 4. Vertical padding, I want it to be 2. And I want it to be rounded dash MD, which means some borders on the right, rounded borders on the right, all around the button. And I'm going to say, I want this plus I want some more classes, which are these default styles. I want variant के styles. अगर primary variant आया तो I want this. Plus I want the default styles. अगर secondary variant आया है तो I want this. Plus I want the default styles. So now if I go over here, wow, fucking so close. देख रहे हो इतना सा change can make your buttons go from ugly to beautiful. Looks pretty decent. What is missing? Number one clear thing I can see is if you go back to the design, the text is a little bit thinner. The font weight here is much higher. So let's make the font weight lesser. Font weight Tailwind. You have to Google this. I don't even remember. I know it'll probably be font strength or something like this. I want the font weight to be maybe 400. So font dash normal class I need to add. Let's add font dash normal here to the default styles. And let's see. Did that make it thinner? Not really. Let's make it even thinner. So font dash light. That looks decent. Share button and add content button look decent. The only thing that is left is adding an icon in front of them. Yahan pe, if you look at it, there is an icon here, there is an icon here. We are also taking that as a prop, start icon, but we haven't yet rendered it. So let's render the start icon over here. यही तो करना है. क्या करना है कि टेक्स्ट के लेफ्ट पे स्टार्ट आइकन रेंडर हो जाए. Whatever comes in as the icon gets rendered right next to the text. There will be some flaws over here. We will fix it. And again, if this is very jarring, last week we have covered the same thing in 2 hours. App.tsx. I now need to pass the start icon over here. Okay, my icon in the button needs to look like this or this. The question is, where do I get these icons from? From the internet, a free resource. Just search for icons Tailwind. You'll reach the resources section of Tailwind, and they suggest a few libraries to be able to get icons and SVGs. Hero Icons is the one that we use. So here, if I go and search for, what do we need? We need a plus icon and a share icon. So I'll search for plus icon over here. Too many mosquitoes here. Search isn't working, but we will search through over here, and I'm sure there you go. This is the plus icon. I can copy SVG over here, and this will copy the scalable vector graphic of it. What is a scalable vector graphic? Again, go to last week's video, but I'll give you a TLDR. It's very similar to PNGs or JPEGs, only it is scalable. You can zoom in a lot into it. Even if you zoom in, extremely into any one of these SVGs, it will not pixelate. But that doesn't happen for PNGs or JPEGs. If you ever have an image, उसके अंदर ज़्यादा zoom करोगे, वो फटने लग जाएगी. This will not pixelate. That is why you use SVGs. Copy SVG. Go back to the code base. And now in the code base, introduce a new folder called icons. यहाँ पे हम अपने सारे icons store करेंगे. Introduce the very first icon over here called plus icon.tsx. And return the SVG from here. Okay, this plus icon is just going to return this SVG, this scalable vector graphic. Similarly, introduce another icon here called share icon. Export function share icon. It needs to return a share icon. So let's search. There you go. This looks very close to what we want. Copy the SVG. Return it from here. The one thing you have to do in React is replace class with class name. Same thing needs to happen here. Class with class name. And now we have two components, plus icon and share icon. I can render them independently if I want. I can render them independently. Component है वो simple. मैं अलग से भी render कर सकता हूँ. Share icon. If I render the share icon and of course import it over here, then notice, what do I see here? I see add content, share, and then the share icon over here. So I can render it independently. But what do we want? We want to pass it as a start icon. Start icon is equal to share icon. And यहाँ पे start icon equal to plus icon. Cool. What have we done? We created a generic button component. We've been using it over here to render buttons that look like this. Very close to what we want. थोड़े से फट गए, but very close to what we want. What is the thing we need to change? We need to put them right next to each other. How do you do it? What is happening in button.tsx? You're rendering two inline items right next to each other. How can you fix it? Flexbox, right? Just add display flex over here, which in Tailwind is add the flex class over here. And you will notice both the buttons work as expected. Of course, the share icon is a little too big. Even the add icon, I would say, is a little too big. So you can go to the share icon and change the class name to be size-4. That looks decentish. You can go to the other icon, which is plus icon, make it size-4. That's a little too small, so size-5. That looks decent. Now there's another problem. Number one, there is not enough space between these two. Number two, they're not vertically aligned to the center. Yeah, थोड़ा less space here, more space over here. Less space here, more space over here. How do you fix this? Again, we did this last week. Whenever you set flex, you can set justify dash center to align the items in the center horizontally. They're already in the center horizontally. What we want is items dash center to align them vertically in the center. Horizontal center कैसे करते हैं? Justify center. Vertical center कैसे करते हैं? Items dash center. Now, this plus icon is vertically aligned, share icon is vertically aligned. Only thing that is left is कि थोड़ा सा padding देनी है इसके right पे. So can I do this div class name equal to pr-2, some padding towards the right of it, and my add content and share button are done. Let's compare them to this thing, add content, share brain. So let me change the text over here to be share brain. And you have two buttons that look pretty good. You just have to place them on the right. That is the simple bit. Stitching it all together is easy. Let's finish the components first. Stitching it together is going to be a piece of cake. Done with the button component. Now you can make it fancy. Okay, on hover, the color changes. When you click on it, a ripple comes out. 10 different things you can do to style it even better based on the designs. But visually, this and this are close. Now the color looks very off to me. This looks like a blue tint more than a purple tint. But okay, we can always tweak the colors later. What else is left? Sidebar and card component. Can we kick things off with the card component? Let's create a generic card component, which takes, this title as the input and icon as the input. And under ka content, we will render based on if it's a Twitter link, if it is a YouTube link. If it is a YouTube link, we'll render the YouTube video over here. If it is a Twitter link, we will render the tweet over here. Let's do something fancy like that. Okay? So it will take the link as the input, the type as the input. Is it a Twitter tweet? Is it a YouTube video? A title as an input, and this icon as an input. All right. Icon भी उसको लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. As long as it knows the type, if it is a tweet, it will render tweet over here. If it is a YouTube video, it will render this over here. so on and so forth. Okay, so let's try to design this card component next. All right, guys, let's finish the card component next. I had already created the empty file. Let's export function card from here, which needs to return a div. And of course, first thing is needs to have some box shadow, needs to have some radius, needs to be white in color. So let's add all of those classes. Class name equal to background dash white and rounded dash md. How do you add shadow in Tailwind? Shadow Tailwind. Shadow dash lg, slightly less. Shadow dash md. Shadow dash md, and also need some sort of a border or outline, I would say. Yeah. Border outline. Not so heavy. Okay, let's see what this looks like first, and then we can add like an outline with the color of gray. I think if you go to there is some shadow here, as you can tell. I don't know, it's very hard for the naked eye to tell. There probably isn't a shadow actually, or maybe there is, but there is definitely an outline of 1 pixel gray in color. So let's add that outline. Color is outline dash, I would say slate dash 200. This is like a mild version of gray. We can also choose border, either is fine. And inside this, for now, let me just write hi there so we can start to inspect it. Go back to app.tsx. After the buttons, render the card component. Let's go back here, refresh. Okay, I see a card. It's really long. That's the first weird thing here. So let's change that. Let's convert it from a div to an inline element like a span. All right, looks like a span now. Let's add some padding in here. So p-8 space, looks like a card. Now let's do this. Let's do a div followed by a span. This is still giving us this specific issue that I hate. I mean, there's one way to get around it, is my-8. Maybe not. Okay, let's do this. Let's keep it a div only, but let's give it a max dash w dash 96, something like this. All right, there we go. There's a card with a maximum width of 96, or whatever that translates to. I would say like 250 pixels or something like that. But again, the border isn't right. There is shadow, but there is no border over here. So let's just make this border dash slate dash 200. Is there a border? I'm partially blind. I don't see a border here. Let's see, how can you increase the border width in Tailwind? Border dash 2. Let's try that. All right, that's too much border now, and that's extremely dark. So what's the one? There's no border dash 1. It's either 2 pixels or 0 pixels. Oh, there you go. Border dash R. So let's do that. Can't say it looks great. One, because this color is much darker. So let's first make it slightly. Oh, that's like right border. My bad. That's not what we want. Just border would do it then. There we go. Just border gives us a 1 pixel width, but this color is extremely dark. So let's try border slate 100. That looks closer to what we want. Yeah, now this card looks somewhat like this card. I would still say this color is different. Rather than slate, let me try gray. Yeah, looks decent. So this is the card that we want. This is the card that we got, at least in terms of, I don't think this has any shadow. So I think we can just get rid of shadow. At the bottom, it's much more prominent than at the top. So let's get rid of the shadow over here. And yeah, that looks much better or much closer to what we want. This is what we want. This is what we got. I think it's a little bit darker on the gray. So let's just make it 200, 300. That's a little too dark. I think 200 was fine. All right. That's our card outline. Now, let's add internal content. What content do we need inside it? 4 things at the top. So a bunch of icons. 3 of these are icons. One of this is a text. So initially, let me reuse some icons. Eventually, we'll change it. At least these 2 icons are constant only. So I can definitely say that this div ke under the very first div is going to have a class name of flex, because it is going to have it is actually going to have 2 children, one child and the second child. So let's do class name flex and justify between. This means both the children should be apart from each other. First child should be on the left, second child should be on the right. The first child will have an icon over here. So let's call it notebook icon. But for now, we don't have a notebook icon. So I'm just going to put the share icon over here, followed by some text, project ideas. And then this one is going to have 2 icons over here. So share icon followed by share icon. Let's see what that looks like. A bunch of, oh yeah. These also need to be flex. They need to be right next to each other. Class name equal to flex. Class name equal to flex. So that these 2 also appear right next to each other. These 2 also appear right next to each other. That looks closer to what we want. There's too much padding here compared to, here. So let's decrease the padding to P-4. Let's increase the space here, increase the space here. All can be done fairly simply. Class name equal to PR-2, let's say. Something like this. Now there is some extra space here. Their color is a little different. So let's do a text dash gray dash 400, 500, and the same thing over here. So div class name equal to text gray 500. Gray color. This thing also needs to be gray color. Div class name equal to text dash gray dash 500. All right. One more thing we should do to vertically align this is what? We just learned it. Justify center. Sorry, item dash center. Items dash center. Doing it on the wrong place. Needs to happen here. There we go. It's vertically aligned. And I need to have some right padding here. So PR-4, let's say. That's too much. PR-2. There we go. Looking closer to what we want. It's a little too big. So let's just change the max width to be 84. Oh, oopsie daisy. 86. 82. 76 definitely exists. Max width 76. Space border. All right. Max width tailwind. Max width 72 is a thing, right? So when I add 72, there we go. That looks decent. I think it's a little too big compared to this title right here. So let's change the font size a bit to be text and font dash MD SM. How do you change the font size in Tailwind? Text dash. So text dash SM should make it small. I think that looks decent. Dash XS. Oh, actually, I'm zoomed in a bit. This is what it actually looks like. So I think MD. I think this is decent. One more thing I should do here is also do items dash center. There we go. Now they all look vertically, aligned correctly. And we have a card. We have the topper of this card done. This part right here. Then we need a title. So let's do we really need this though? Yes, we do. I mean, this specific design was made with something else in mind. I think a title and this top bar followed by a video or a tweet is good enough for us. So what we really need after this is a YouTube embed or a Twitter embed. So let's try to find a youtube.com/ let's find a video and try to embed it over here. So let's see. Share, embed, and that's how you embed a YouTube video. Let's go back to Visual Studio Code. Where is it? Did it crash? Oh, there you go. And let's, for now, just have the YouTube video embedded right after this. I think it needs to be this and this. Allow full screen. There we go. All right, let's see. Yeah, that's a little too big. Everything else is fine because width and height we've put over here. So let's not do that. And that looks sort of closer to what we want, but not exactly. It's overflowing a little too much. So what can we do? Ugly thing we can do is increase the width. Div class name equal to w dash. What's the width that we've said? 72. Let's see, does that fix it? It does not. Let's try to inspect. Go over here and see. After these things, this is the iframe. How can you width 100%? There you go. So all I have to do is class name equal to w dash 100. Yeah, there we go. Nah, that's not it. How do you do width 100%? W dash full. There we go. That's how we will embed our YouTube videos. Now there needs to be some space here. Div class name equal to pt, padding on the top as 8. That's too much padding. 4. There we go. That looks pretty decent. That's our first card, or first type of card, the one which has a YouTube video. The other type of card will have a tweet. So let's quickly try to comment this out and try to see how do you embed a tweet. Twitter. Oh. And let's select this one. Embed post. Embeddable post. Copy code. Oh boy. Let's see. That's a little too much. That looks weird, actually. Like there's no easy way for me to embed a tweet with just the link of the tweet. It seems. Let's look at it. I'm not saying this will not work, but we might have to do something else. Why is the text over here? Like you shouldn't. Story and the image. Yeah, that's just weird. Embed tweet directly from URL. Okay, they don't make this easy, do they? Yeah, this is exactly what we want. Okay. Let's see if does that work. Like we want it to just, oh, my YouTube script. There we go. We want it to just appear given the tweet URL. We don't want to hit an API and get the text and render it here. This is what we want. Given the URL, we can embed it. Question is, does this work? Let's see. I doubt it does. Yeah, it doesn't work. You have to, of course, load a Twitter script. That makes a lot of sense. So let me copy this script. Let me go to index.html and paste the script. There are better ways to do it. You can lazily load this only if needed, but we are just going to put it and load this script always and go here. Yahan pe we have this now, and this class name is most probably what's going to give it the style. And now there we go. That's exactly what we wanted. We've been able to embed a tweet also, embed a YouTube video also. This is how you embed a YouTube video. This is how you embed a tweet. So what's left? Making it dynamic. What all things do we expect? A title, a link, and a type. Card props. Interface card props. Title is a string. Link is a string. Type is a Twitter or YouTube, let's say, just for now. These are the two types of links we support. Given these three, the title will render over here. The link would probably be present, somewhere here when you click on the share button. So share icon, I would say, somewhere here you need to navigate the user to it. So I would just say href, or, there are better ways of doing it. But let's just do this. On click equal to router navig. We don't have React Router DOM. Let's do this instead. Ahref equal to link. This will just open this link in a new tab. So when you click on it, it'll take you to the tweet or the YouTube video. And lastly, we will conditionally render either this or this based on whether it's a YouTube video or not. So if it is a YouTube video, so if, type equal to YouTube, then we are going to render this iframe. If type equal to Twitter, then we're going to render this tweet thingy. There we go. Anything else that we need? Yeah, this will have the link to the YouTube video. Now the YouTube video will look different, right? It'll have youtube.com/watch/something, but we want youtube.com/embed/something. When you're embedding, you have to have embed in the URL. When you're watching, then you don't go to /embed, you go to /watch. So people will most probably send this link. We need to replace, this is an ugly way of doing it, but we can do link dot replace watch with embed. And that will render the embed on our website. And similarly here, so it's as simple as just rendering the link. All right. I feel like we have our generic card component ready. It takes a title, a link, and a type as an input. Let's go back to app.tsx. Type equal to, let's say, Twitter. Link equal to, let me link one of my latest tweets. Let's say this one. I think this is the ID, or this is the URL for it. So link is this, and what else did it expect? The title. First tweet. That's the first card. And let's say the second card is type equal to YouTube. Title equal to first video. And let's say the link to the first video is this one. There we go. Now if I go back here and refresh, the YouTube video fails. The tweet also fails. What was the Twitter URL originally? /username/status/ this thing. What am I putting? /username/status/ this thing looks similar. Oh, there you go. This worked. But if I put my own link, then it doesn't work. Oh, wait. type equal to YouTube. No, that looks right. Type to Twitter. That looks right. Refresh. Okay, why are you failing? Why are you failing? Ahref equal to x.com versus twitter.com. Is that it? Is that it? Probably. So I'm going to do a replace x.com with twitter.com and see if that fixes it. And it does not. Oh, there you go. It does. So the APIs work on twitter.com but not on x.com right now. That's weird. All right. That's one. Video is still breaking. And that is because if you look at the YouTube link, embed. Oh, okay. That looks wrong. Yeah, we need to convert this URL to a different URL. Again, the dumb way of doing this, which I'm going to use, but you shouldn't. You figure out a cleaner way to do it. You'll probably need regexes. The dumb way to do this is this. Let's see. Like the best way to do this is in your database, you should store the IDs, the ID of the tweet and the ID of the video. But what I'm going to do is also dot replace question mark v equal to with slash. Replace with, yeah, I think that should do it, but we'll see. Yeah, that seems to work. Let me just quickly go back here and put this inside of Flex so we can see what it looks like. Div class name equal to Flex. And then we have the two cards. Fairly simple code we're writing over here. I see two buttons. I see the first tweet. I see the first video. Refresh. Do we see it? There we go. Tweet comes a little later. It lazily loads. So what we can do is we can give a min height to this div. Min dash h dash 72. I mean, that's a little too much, I think. Yeah, 72 is too much. I would say 48. Something like this. Yeah. And min width also. I would just restrict the width, if I'm being honest, to 72 only. Or, we can make it, if the screen is bigger, then it's something, smaller, then it's something. But either way, this is fine. Yeah, that looks decentish. Of course, there should be some padding in the middle. You can easily add that. Gap dash 2, I think. Yeah, there we go. Gap dash 4. There we go. That looks decent. Add overall padding, class name equal to p dash 4. And there we go. Buttons ko ek saath kar do. Div class name equal to flex. Justify end. Gap dash 4. And now we have two buttons sticking on the right and two tweets over here. The only thing that is left is the left sidebar. Simple enough. Ye component banana, and making both of these, embeds over here. What should we do next? We can build the sidebar easily. That's the easy bit. Let's finish the add content bit. Either make a model pop up or, just something pop up here where you can just quickly add the content. And then let's connect it to the backend. Building the sidebar is the easy bit we can get to. All right, let's get into that next. All right, let's make the add content button functional. Whenever I click on it, I want a modal to pop up. It can also be a drop down, really depends on you. Let's go with modal for now. It can also be another page. You click on this, you reach another page and you go from there. For us, let's open a model. So let me go back to Visual Studio Code and let's create another component called create content modal.tsx. Inside this, let me export a function called create content model. And this will take two things as an input. Open whether or not this model is popped up right now, and set open, let's say, or on close, either is fine. I'll come to what this is. Let's call it on close. But basically, we want this to be what's called a controlled component. देखो क्या होता है कि in the end, when the user clicks on it, a model will pop up. This will be a state variable. Model open, model close. So like model open would be a state variable. Now that model open state variable you can define inside model open, comma set model open equal to use state, let's say false initially. And here we can write logic that looks like this. Okay, if model is open, only then render the popped up card on the screen. This is not a controlled component. This is you controlling the state inside. A controlled component is okay, whoever is using this component will tell whether or not it is open, and the component can tell to the parent component KR the person clicked on the cross icon. In the end, when I click on add content, what will happen is, if this is the screen right now, when I click on add content, what will happen is a model will pop up right here. Let's say the rest of the screen will go, slightly black. The rest of the screen will go slightly black. This will all become black, or slightly black, slightly transparent. And this model will be the central focus. We'll have a few input boxes here. Okay, what is the link? What is the type? Is it Twitter or something else? And a submit button. And we'll have a cross icon over here. So now the cross icon exists inside the model. Here at the first line would be, whatever, a cross icon, something like this. So I want, okay, when the cross icon is clicked, on click, whenever this icon is clicked, I want to tell my parent component कि यार जो open आप मुझे दे रहे हो ना, इसको false कर दो अब. The open that you're sending me, make it false now, please, because the user clicked this close button. So the close icon handler is over here, but the handler can bubble up the on click event to the parent component. So create content model, which is rendered, which will eventually be rendered somewhere on the landing page or somewhere on this, add content button page component. That will be a controlled component. ये create content model will be a controlled component. जब भी बंदा cross icon पे click करेगा, यहाँ पे click करेगा, whenever the user clicks on this, you will signal to the parent component कि यार user has clicked on the cross icon. Please flip this state variable to false. If this state variable was defined here, const modal open, comma set modal open equal to use state false. Now, if this model open was defined here, then it would have been as simple as this. Okay, when you click on it, set this to false. But since it is defined outside, it is a controlled component. That is why you have to signal to the parent, tell the parent component, कि hey, close button has been clicked. Please change the state variable to false. ठीक है? If नहीं समझ आया, we'll try to implement it and understand. First, there is a very big UI challenge here. How do you place something on top of the existing UI? How do you make everything else red in color or black in color and make sure the model pops up at the top of the screen? This is where you need sort of another UI on top of your initial UI that is floating on top. And this UI has a black color over here, or transparent black, let's say, color over here. Oh, daisy, it crashed. A transparent black color all around, and this in the center is visible. How do you create this is a challenge itself. So first, we need to figure out how do you create a model, then we'll understand the functionalities. Creating the model is, you create a div whose width is the width of the screen, which means the full width of the current window. Height is the height of the screen, which is the full height of the current window. Background color, let's say, is red for now. And its position is fixed. Top is 0, left is 0. It means this is a fixed div starting from this top left corner, starting from here, taking full width and full height. That is what we will render on the screen. When we will render this on the screen, if and only if the model is open. If it is not open, we don't need to render anything on the screen. But if it is open, we will render another UI on top of our existing UI. Let's see, does it work? Let me go to, let's say this root component of ours. And at the top, let me render create content model open equal to true. Something like this. Now if I refresh, notice the UI comes on top. Now it is not opaque. We need to make it opaque. So let's do that. Opacity in Tailwind. opacity dash 20. $40. 60, let's say, something like this. A model has popped up. If I call create content model and set open to false, it goes away. If I set open to true, it comes back. So this looks like we're moving in the right direction. When the user clicks on this button, I'll change this state variable to be true. Let's design the modal next. This is the div. Let's make this black, by the way, like we don't want it to be red in color. Now here at the center of the screen, I want a div to be rendered. I want a div over here at the center. So what can I do? I can first define a div, or actually in the parent, I can say here flex justify center. In the center of the screen, the next div should come. And in this div, I will say, let's say just hi there, and class name equal to background color is white. I see a white background colored div sort of over here. Opacity 100, full opacity I want. I don't want this to be opaque at all. I want this to be 100% visible. Let's see. Opacity 1. It's going to be tricky. How do I make the child component completely, non-opaque? This should not be opaque. This model that we want should not be opaque. There we go. This will make sure that it only takes up as much height as needed. And in fact, we can do a class name equal to flex dash call justify dash center. There we go. It now appears at the vertical center of the screen as well. Of course, I want the span to be a little padded, maybe a little rounded as well. And now I want to make sure at the very least, I have a cross icon at the top right. Opacity went away as well. So it's like completely solid, this specific model. Everything else is opaque. This is pretty solid. Now, let me add a cross icon to begin with at the top right. So div class name equal to flex justify end. And here, let me add a cross icon. Now, we don't have a cross icon in our code base. So what's the next step? In our icons, introduce a new cross icon.tsx. Export function cross icon, which let's say returns or renders a cross icon close. There you go. See, something like this. Now we have a cross icon component. I'm going to use that over here. Let's see what it looks like. I have a cross icon over here. Now let me add the rest of the things. We have rendered a cross icon. Below it, I'm going to add a div where we'll have our input boxes. There'll be an input box type. Now I can do this, but ideally we should create another component called, an input component. We should create it separately also. We should not create it in this component. Separately, we should create an input component, which is, slightly styled. Input type equal to text. Class name equal to, some nice padding x dash 4, padding y dash 2, something like this. And on change, whenever the user changes something inside the input box, it should propagate to the parent. I know this part is a little confusing. I'll come to why I am introducing on change as a prop over here. But what I'm doing here is I'm making a more styled version of an input box. I want an input box to be custom. Just like we've created our custom buttons, I've created a custom input box. Why? Because now I can, render multiple of them. I have two input boxes. And another thing I can take as input is placeholder. कि उसके अंदर दिखेगा क्या? What will be written inside? And pass this placeholder to the native input HTML element. That way, यहाँ से मैं जो placeholder भेजूंगा, placeholder equal to title, placeholder equal to title and link. Whatever I pass from here is what appears over here. Title is an input box, link is an input box. Now you can make it more and more fancy. For example, at the very least, it should have some border in here. Border, a very light border now you can see, and it should be rounded. It is rounded over here. And maybe, just maybe, add some margin here as well, m-2. That looks decentish. This is for the title. This is for the link. And then we'll have a button at the very end. We already have many buttons, so we can just reuse them. We don't have to create a new one. Button, let's say variant equal to primary, text equal to submit. And then we'll see if we need more props later on. There are a bunch of red squigglies here because we have not sent everything that input needs for now. We will be sending the rest of the things very soon. If I refresh, I see this, and a submit button. I don't love, this is opaque. It feels opaque. Can you guys see this? This looks a little opaque. We'll figure out how to fix it. Let's at least centralize the button so I can... there are easier ways to do this or better ways to do this. I'm just going to go with flex, justify center. And now if you look at it, submit button is here. I can add some content and click on the submit button. The color looks very weird because it's opaque for now. We'll see how to figure that out very soon. Alrighty. We sort of have a model. The problem is it is open by default. This is the model component that I have created. Based on this state variable, it renders or does not render. But the problem is I'm not flipping this off or on when the user clicks on the cross icon, for example. Delete hogi nahi, it will have some dependency. Hidden ko true set kar do, that's good. Sorry about that. What we want is whether or not the model is open is a state variable. So let's do this. Const modal open, comma set modal open equal to use state false. Initially it is not open. Let's pass this state variable rather than hard coded value of true. And यहाँ पे I will say here on close, जब भी this child component is telling me कि यार the person has clicked on the cross icon, I will set it to false. This on close will ensure that when I am clicking on the cross icon, let me open it by default. By default it is open, I see a model. But now when I click on this, it still doesn't close. Why? Because even though on close is now going as a prop to create content model. Create content model को ये function input में मिल गया है. It has this function as a prop. OnCloak has that whole function in here in this variable. I am not calling it when this cross icon is clicked. So what do I want? Here, whenever this cross icon is clicked, I want to call onClose. Something like this. जब भी क्रॉस आइकन पे क्लिक हो ऑन क्लोज को कॉल कर दो कॉल द ऑन क्लोज वेरिएबल एंड व्हाट विल दैट डू दैट विल कॉल दिस फंक्शन राइट हियर व्हाट विल दैट डू that will set this state variable to false, and then this false state variable will again propagate to this model, and then it will close the specific model that you saw on the screen. This is what a controlled component is. कि ऊपर से control आ रहा है, ऊपर से you are telling कि model is open. Whenever it closes, child tells the parent कि भाई इसको false कर दे, please hide the model over here. So if I close it now, it goes away. Add content पे अब क्या करना है? When you click on add content, model pops up. So we have two buttons over here, add content and share brain. What do I want? When the button is clicked, then I want to set model open to true. That's exactly what we want. Add content पे click हो, then the model pops up. But the button component that we have defined doesn't yet take on click as an input. It doesn't take a function as an input yet. Let me define it. KR, there is a fourth prop that is needed. It can actually be optional also because some buttons might not have any on-click functionality, some of them might. So it can be an optional prop over here. When I'm destructuring, I will also destructure this prop over here. And I will say, here, whenever this button is clicked, the real native button is clicked, please call the parent onClick function. जो यहाँ पे function आ रहा है, call that function whenever the button is clicked. Let's see, does that happen? Seems like it's working. Add content opens the model, closes the model, opens the model, closes the model. Few rough things here and there. Okay, there should be a mouse pointer over here. So let's just do class name equal to cursor dash pointer, so that now when I hover over this, it becomes a pointer and it feels more clickable. And we have the two things over here. One more thing you should figure out, when I click outside, it should close. How will you do that? That will be a little complicated. You have to add another React hook, or there's like other ways to do it. But like one popular one is add a on outside click hook handler or something like that. But I will not share. Figure out and let me know if you were able to figure it out. Okay, add content, close it. The only thing that is left is the sidebar now. Okay, the UI should have a sidebar which looks something like this, where we can show the tweets, videos, so on and so forth. So let's quickly do that, and then we'll connect it to the backend. Sidebar.tsx, export function sidebar needs to return a div with height is the height of the screen, background is white, border dash R, just one border on the right. Border dash R means border on the right, and width limited to, let's say, 76. Let me put high there over here. And what you can do is you can give it a position of fixed. It is a fixed div over here on the left, and left is 0, top is 0. So a fixed div on the left of the screen. That is what this sidebar component returns. And where will I render it? In app.tsx. KR, जो मेरी app है, let's remove this padding from the top. My app will have two parts. The main content, जहाँ पे हमने सब कुछ डाल रखा है, this main content, and the sidebar. And the main content में कुछ change होगा अभी. एक चीज तो padding ही थी, so we'll add that padding. We'll do a bunch of other things here. Let's see, does it work? Feels like it does not work. This became a very big high there div. Jabki I've said width 72 maybe. Yeah, there you go. Now we have a sidebar over here on the left with a width of 72. But the other div is probably below. It is below. So how will we fix this? Position fixed, maybe it is below. Then we can do position absolute. That is one way to do it. That didn't do it either. Let's see, is that right? Oh, it's not position absolute. I think it's just absolute. It is just absolute and it is just fixed. So let's do this. Fixed. There we go. And let me remove whatever I added here. Everything looks right, but the first tweet is hidden behind it. This fixed div hai, it comes on top of everything. So I need to make sure the second div has a margin left of the same width. This guy has a width of 76. The main content should have a margin left of 76. So what can I do? M-L-72, whatever was the width of this sidebar. ML-72. And there we go. We have a sidebar. We have a nav bar at the top, which lets you add content in ShareBrain. We have all of our tweets. This, if you remember, had a different background color. It was not white. It was slightly bluish grayish. So let's do that. Let's say the main content will have a height min of screen. It'll at least have the height of the full screen and have a background. What was the custom color that we added initially? Gray 100, I think. Gray dash 100. Min dash h dash screen. Yeah, there we go. Minimum height of the screen. And this right div now has a background color of blue or whatever, light gray. Sidebar on the left is white in color. That looks right. This is a little more bold of an outline or border. That's the only difference. So I'd probably do a border dash, like give a border width to the right one. So border width, border dash 2 maybe, make it slightly more bold. And yeah, it looks like a bolder border now. Sidebar on the left, content on the right. What is left? Only putting these things here, right? A logo and a bunch of these tweets rather than hi there. That's very... Sorry about that. The recording died. We just need to finish the sidebar. And I suddenly remembered we also have to create a login and a sign up page, right? So let's quickly finish the sidebar followed by a login page, a sign up page, and go from there. For the sidebar, we already have the sidebar item, export function, sidebar item, return div. What does the sidebar item look like? Let's see. Let me open Notion. It looks something like this. So just an icon followed by some text. So I'll do a class name equal to flex. I'll take two inputs, text comma icon. React element. And render the icon first, followed by the text. The icons look something like this: Twitter, YouTube. That's the only two things we support. So we'll just have two of these sidebar items. That means we need to add two more icons to our systems. Let's go back to hero icons. Let's search for Twitter. Oh, they don't have social icons, do they? That's not great. Twitter, SVG. We can also just search on Google. Like SVGs are fairly common of a concept. So there we go. Copy SVG. Copied. Let me go to icons and create twitter.tsx. Export function Twitter. Return. Wow, that's quite an SVG, as it should be, because the Twitter icon is fairly complicated. So that looks decent, although this width and height is giving me anxiety. It seems like it'll be really big, but we'll see. That's the Twitter. Let me call it Twitter icon. I should also name this too, Twitter icon. And similarly, let's add a YouTube icon.tsx. And thankfully, on this website, I can just search for YouTube. This one looks like the best one right now. Copy it as an SVG. That's done. Return the SVG from here. I apologize. And in sidebar now, I'm going to, rather than hi there, render the sidebar items. So div class name equal to padding top dash 4, let's say. Sidebar item title equal to Twitter. Sorry, text equal to Twitter. Icon equal to Twitter icon. And then another sidebar item where the icon is going to be the other one, which is YouTube icon. This is going to say YouTube. Let's see what it looks like. So I think I have everything broke. Let's look at the console.
Twitter icon.tsx does not provide a named import. So let's go to Twitter icon export function, Twitter icon. There we go. Firstly, the model is always open by default. Let's fix that first. Let's go to app.tsx and keep the model closed. That's one. Secondly, my worries became true as this icon is bigger than my paycheck. How's that for a joke? I'll have to decrease the size of these icons. I think this should do it. If I go to Twitter icon, I can also make these 20, so that's divided by 5. That means these would be 10. Yeah, that just messed the whole thing up. 20, yeah, there we go. So let's just make it, I don't know, 25. Decent. And the same would be here. Width and height would be 25. All right, that looks decent. Go back to the sidebar item. Make sure you have some padding everywhere. So div class name equal to padding right, or I guess general padding. Either is fine, but let's just do general padding of 2 here, and then the same is true for the text. P-2. And there we go. We have something here. Let's compare it to what we need to make it. Okay, this is grayish in color. That's 1. There's a little more padding on the left. That's 2. And everything else looks fine to me. So I'm going to just do a text dash gray, or gray is fine, I guess. 800. 700. Looks decent. The only problem is color doesn't propagate here. So if I go to the icons, let's say Twitter icon, I don't know if this would do it. Yeah, it does not. It's an SVG. How do you? I think it's a fill that I have to share or something. All right, let's see. Color. Yeah, color does nothing here. In the path, color does nothing either. These I was able to color though. Why is that? Let's see. Plus icon was an SVG. Where am I using this? Plus icon, using it here in the button component. And yeah, here I made it white, here I made it purple, right? That means text purple 600 does work. If the parent has this thing, the child, the icon automatically had the same color. But that's not happening right now. So let's try to figure out why that is. Let's go to sidebar item. We're entering the icon here. Let's try it here. Text purple 600. That doesn't do it either. What's now first principles thinking? What is different between this icon, this SVG, and this SVG? Why is this SVG being overridden to white? Its parent has this color white. It gets applied to this SVG. Fill none, stroke current color. That might be it. So let's add plus icon, stroke current color. Oh, it's already there. No, not the plus icon, sorry. Twitter icon, stroke current color. There we go. And then the YouTube icon, stroke current color. Best way to learn something is to figure it out by first principles, which is, something I just did, for example. Alrighty. Now Twitter is red. No, there you go. Twitter looks gray, YouTube does not. So the YouTube icon, stroke equal to current color, path equal to, and fill equal to current color. That did it. Let's see. Seems like it did it. It's very hard to tell. for the naked eye. Yeah, there you go, it did. Cool. Actually, red looks much better on YouTube, if I'm being honest. But you can't go against the design, so let's stick with it. All right, cool, that's good enough. Let's add some padding all around. So let's go back to sidebar.tsx and make sure, you know, the sidebar itself has some PL of, I don't know, 4 to kick things off. It's probably a little too much. Can you do 6? Yeah, I mean 4 is good enough. All right, there we go. Cool, let's add the logo at the very top. Brainly H1 class name equal to flex, text dash to Excel. I just add the padding here, so PL-4, and we need a brain sort of an icon. Yeah, these have internal paddings, this is why you shouldn't have internal paddings. P-2, I would say stick with PR2 here, and this guy doesn't need anything. PY-2. Decent enough. Now I can definitely say this should be 6. Yeah, there we go. All vertically aligned. And Brainly needs to have a PT-4. And let's add a brain image in front of it. Search for brain here. Yeah, as expected. There's no brain icon, so I'm just going to add this academic icon. I'm going to create another icon called logo.tsx. I'm going to give it, I'm going to render it here. Okay, see the logo. Justify, items dash center, and logo is going to have some PR of 4 and slightly bigger logo. So I would say size dash 8. Yeah, slightly less padding, and color is going to be purple for this guy. So text dash purple dash 600, 800, 700. I'd say 600 was better. So there we go. Cool. This is the sidebar we have created. If we go here, this is the sidebar that was expected. Seems like there's a lot of padding. 2, indeed, there's a lot of internal padding over here, which is something I wasn't expecting. So let's go to, yeah, we can just do it here. PL-4, all right. And some more spacing all around. So let's just, where did we have the parent padding? And logo should also have some more top padding. There we go. That looks decentish. Yeah, a lot of things that I'm skipping because the designs aren't very comprehensive are cursor, are like hover states. Like when I hover over it, it should really change the color over here, so I know what I'm dealing with. So hover : VG dash gray dash 200, something like this. So I know what I'm dealing with here, what I'm hovering over. Things like these, they become important. Let me actually do some of, show you one of these examples. As you can see, it's very ugly at the moment. So rounded, and I don't know, this is probably a bad way to do it, but max W48. We probably need some left padding here. So PL-4. There we go. Something like this. So one of many things you can do to, spice up your application. Maybe you should change the background color with some animations. So animate background color tailwind. I just need to add an animate transition property. I'm just trying to look at which one. Transition all should probably do it. Let's see. I think it's happening. Well, let me just increase the duration. Transition duration, just to make sure it is working. Duration dash 100 or 1000. Let's go here, refresh. Yeah, as you can see, it is animating. Now it's animating with, it's really slow right now. So, whatever, the default is good enough, 150. So yeah, that's one of many things you can do to, just make it more accessible. Accessibility is a very common term. You'll see, you should add the same thing here, by the way, like hover states over here. But cool. All right, we have this. You should add the hover states here as well, so on and so forth. Cool. We're done with the sidebar. Now we just have to add the functionality. Before that, we need to add the sign up, sign in page. So let's quickly do that. Let's go to app.tsx. Wow. I have a very long app.tsx here. This shouldn't be app.tsx. This should be a folder called pages, because we'll have multiple pages. This should be pages/dashboard.tsx, something like that. So let me copy this from here, paste it here, and export dashboard. Every import becomes ... because I've put it inside a folder, so every import goes back one folder. And let me export this from here. In app.tsx, let me remove everything, and we're going to simply return or render the dashboard. When I do that, this is what I see. The same thing I see, just structured my code a little bit better. Well, I spoke too soon. Something I broke. Nothing. App is not defined because I'm exporting dashboard over here. Export function dashboard. There you go. Refresh. Worked. Still some errors that we can fix, but there we go. A decentish V1. The next step is going to be build the sign up page. So let me create another page called, you can just create auth.tsx and have both sign up and sign in together, or you can have different sign up.tsx and sign in.tsx. Both are fine. Let's go to sign up.tsx, export function sign up, return div. Now we don't have a design for a sign up page. So, the standard simple design is fine. Which is, take full height, take full width, background color of, let's say, gray-100 or maybe 200, flex justify-center, items-center. This will vertically and horizontally align the div inside, which will be our, whatever, sign up thingy. Class name equal to bg-white, rounded, border. Yeah, that's good enough. And maybe a min width of 48, something like that. It'll have input boxes. I remember vaguely creating a generic input box somewhere. Export function input. Oh, function input. I think I did not export it. There we go. I created it here. This should ideally be a component in itself. So let me do that really quickly. Let me copy it from here. Go to components, create input.tsx and export it from here. The types here were incorrect. Let me fix that. Placeholder will be string and onChange will be this. What have I done? Okay, placeholder will be a string and onChange will be this function. Now this input I need to export here also. I have imported it. Have I? Yeah. I've not done anything with the onChange event yet. We will eventually. And the same is true here. I can import input directly. Placeholder equal to username. Placeholder equal to password. Something like this. Good enough. Seems decent. Let's try to render the sign up page. Oh, there should also be a button. So let's do a button. Variant equal to primary. Text equal to sign up. Decent. And let's render this sign up page at the very top. So in my app.tsx, I'm going to render sign up. There we go. Look at the ugly version of a sign up page. So let's quickly fix that. This button needs to be centrally aligned. So div class name equal to flex justify dash center. That looks decent. Give it some padding at the top, and add a lot of padding here. P-8 rounded. Oh, it is rounded. I would say rounded dash XL. Yeah, that looks decentish. I mean, one thing I should add another variant of sign up that should be full width. So button should have another prop called full width, which means whether or not this should be a full width div. So full width is an optional parameter which will be a boolean, and if full width is true, then I should add another class here, which will be plus. If full width is true, I mean, yeah, this syntax is, you should convert the whole thing to this syntax. I'm just doing this one so it's easier to read. If full width is true, then I should render w-full, else I should render an empty string. This will give it a width 100% CSS attribute, which should make this full screen, or as long as possible, not full screen. Let's see, does that happen? Full width equal to true. That does not happen. So the question is, how do you make a button full width? Width 100%. There we go. That does happen. So what did I give? W-full or something else? Button W-full. If full width is true, then W-full. That looks right to me. Tailwind full, no, width. 100% W-full. That looks right. Full width question mark W-full. Oh, I know what I did wrong. It should be space W-full. वो जुड़ जा रहा है पिछले style के साथ. If I go back here, now I see a full width button. The problem is text isn't centrally aligned, which should be straightforward. W full flex and justify dash center items dash center. There you go. Is it just placebo, or does it feel like this is highly right aligned? Like there's more space here, less space here? I don't know. Either way, it's fine. All right. User will put their email password and click on sign up. What should happen then? A backend request should go out. But what is one thing we're missing that, tell me, how can we make this better UX? We should add another state to buttons, a loading state. A loading state means when the user has clicked on it, you should see some sort of a loader here. The button should become disabled, things like these. So what you can do is you can add another parameter called loading, which again is optional. But if loading is true, then you can add, again, there are better ways to merge CSS classes, which, I'm happy to get into. And if not, you figure it out. There are, libraries like CLSX that make this very easy and less ugly to look at. If loading is true, then disabled, else empty. I think a button, you can set like disabled equal to true or something like that to make it disabled. Let's see. I won't do anything actually though. Yeah. That did do some things. Like as you can see, if I set disabled to be true, then this is unclickable, but that's not enough. By unclickable, I mean you don't see the mouse pointer anymore, the hand anymore. You see my mouse pointer. So this disabled is doing its thing. ये इसकी तो ज़रूरत है नहीं अपने को. I can just, step one can be, step one can simply be disabled equal to loading. If it is loading, then make the button disabled. So now it is clickable, but if I pass loading equal to true, then this becomes unclickable. By unclickable, I mean the hand doesn't appear anymore. But, ideally you should see a loader over here, a spinner over here, or the button's color should change to something else. So for that, yeah, now we need to add more styles, more colors. Basically, if a color should become light purple or something, disable purple, or it should become opaque, I guess. That should also do it. What I can do is, if loading is true, then opacity in Tailwind, then it should become slightly opaque. So I would say opacity dash 45, else we don't worry about anything. So if it is loading, make it slightly more opaque. And now if you look at it, this does indeed look opaque. So, we can just flip this loading between true and false to make this button unclickable. All right, that will give, again, some accessibility, some feedback to the user. When they click on it, the button becomes disabled. False, you see the button correctly. Alrighty, great. Sign up is done. Can you do sign in? You can, and ideally, you should reuse code signin.tsx. Already exists. What I'm doing is I'm just copying the code, pasting it here, replacing this with sign in, replacing the button text with sign in. But ideally, you can, a lot of this can be encapsulated together, put in a common place, and sign up and sign in can share a lot of code. I'm not doing that though. All right, cool. Let's go back here. Now, if I render sign in, I see the sign in page. If I render sign up, I see the sign up page. You can get fancy here. You can move this to the right, have some text on the left. There are many ways to make your application fancier and fancier. But I think I'll pause there in terms of the styles in the front end. We have the front end, we have the dashboard, we have the sign up page, sign in page, and the dashboard. Only thing that's left now, hopefully, I've said this a few times now, but this time I think I'm sure. Okay, the only thing that is left is actually connecting this to the backend. So let's start the backend. Let's send out a request to the backend whenever the user signs up or signs in. And then let the user add content to everything that's needed to build the application completely full stack. Let's get into that next. All right, folks. Again, before we get to connecting the backend, let's add React router DOM to add routing to our application. So /signup takes you to the signup page, /signin takes you to the sign-in page, so on and so forth. So step one over there, where's my terminal? Step one is npm install React router DOM. Again, we've done this in React in a class, so hopefully this is obvious what's happening here. Then now this always confuses me. Browser router, routes, and route. There we go. App is going to return a browser router inside which we will have multiple routes, inside which we have one route, path equal to /signup, component or element equal to the sign up page, and then similarly /signin would render the sign in page, and similarly /dashboard would render the dashboard page. There we go. These are the three endpoints that we have. Let's see, does it work? Let me start the front end again, refresh. /endpoint renders nothing. Sign up renders the sign up page. Sign in renders the sign in page. Dashboard renders this page right here. So I think we're good. Routing is done. Now we can connect it to the backend. So let's go back to the sign up page. Very important call out here. Listen to me very carefully. We're doing this in a very beginner friendly fashion. But now the world is moving towards data fetching libraries. So you should use React Hook Forms. You should use React Query. You should use SWR. These are three libraries that are used for data fetching. They'll give you some extra things. We've discussed a little bit about React Hook Forms. We've probably not discussed about the other two. Sorry, not React Hook Forms. We've discussed a bit about React Query. And these are good libraries to use whenever you want your front end to talk to your backend. It'll still work without it. It'll be much easier to write it from first principles without using these libraries. So we'll not be using these libraries today. But eventually you should learn these, and most of the times React Query is the more popular one today. So you should understand how you can work with React Query. We'll do a video on it, don't worry about it. But if you can, try to figure it out yourself as well. We're doing it from very basic first principles. All right, sign up page. what needs to happen here? We first need to know what exactly is being stored in the username field and the password field, so that whenever the user clicks on the sign up button, whenever button on click equal to sign up, whenever the user clicks on the sign up button, we get what's in the username field, what is in the password field, and then send a request to the backend. So I can get username equal to, what can I do here? How will I get the username in this input box? Can I use something we have used in the past? We have used refs in the past for this, if you remember. Const username ref equal to useref. Const password ref equal to useref. हमें यहाँ पे username and password की value चाहिए. यहाँ पे we want what exactly is stored in that input box. So what we can do is this generic input component में we can actually get rid of this on change handler that we've written. We don't really need this. And what we can do is replace on change with a ref. Okay, ref, which we'll figure out the right type. Any is what we're going with right now, but we'll figure out the right type for this very soon. Ref equal to ref. It needs to come here as well. Now there's some people might be confused. ये क्या किया? Why? How was this an error? आपने डाल तो दिया यहाँ पे any. I have added the type. I have not added the argument over here. This is similar to this input props. Interface input props, something like this. So यहां पे मैंने ref डाल दिया था. I did not put it here. I did not destructure it here in props. If this was JavaScript, so I would have written this code. Now that this is TypeScript, I'm writing this code. So I will receive a ref. I'll set input ref equal to ref. This should also be optional for now. All right. तो यहाँ पे जो साइन अप रेफ, सॉरी यूजर नेम रेफ एंड पासवर्ड रेफ आई हैव, इसको मैं फॉरवर्ड कर दूंगा इनपुट को कि यार मैं देखो एक रेफ दे रहा हूं, प्लीज जो नेटिव इनपुट बॉक्स है, दिस नेटिव इनपुट बॉक्स, इसकी रेफरेंस यहां स्टोर कर दे. एंड द सेम थिंग फॉर द अदर वन, इन यूजर नेम रेफ एंड पासवर्ड रेफ. इसका फायदा क्या होगा कि यार वेन एवर द यूजर क्लिक्स ऑन द साइन अप बटन, आई कैन गेट द करंट वैल्यू. What's happening here? Let me just remove this line. I can get the current value here by running const username equal to username ref dot current dot value. And again, password I can get by username ref dot current, password ref dot current dot value. Now TypeScript is giving you a lot of things. It is telling you this may be undefined. So you can add optional chaining over here. You can say if it exists, only then get value. Else, if this does not exist, then don't access value. If this does exist, only then access value. Property value does not exist on never. So the other thing we haven't done right now here is we haven't yet given it a type. कि यार ref कैसा दिखेगा? Here actually you have to understand generics, which I think we haven't discussed. We need another video on generics. Input HTML. Okay, to get rid of this for now, write this. Harkira, this is very complicated. I know. I know this is complicated. What are these brackets that Harkirat has added? Why has he written any inside and nothing else? We will fix this. We will understand what these brackets do. They're supposed to be part of advanced TypeScript, and they're called generics, and are an important concept. We'll come to it. And why are we passing any in here? Again, because it's mildly hard, not too hard, to figure out यहाँ पे क्या जाएगा, यहाँ पे जाना क्या चाहिए. After you understand generics, you will understand that what you have to put inside here is the final value of what's being stored in the ref. Ref में क्या store हो रहा है? Ref में input DOM element store हो रहा है. So what goes here is something like an HTML DOM input element or HTML input element, something like this. This is the actual thing that goes here. अगर मैं ये लिख देता हूँ, as you can see there is no error over here, because मैंने बता दिया कि username ref is eventually going to store an HTML input element, and that means an HTML input element will be stored in username ref.current. And क्योंकि यहाँ पे HTML element stored है, इसकी every HTML element has a value attribute. If I do a document.get element by ID, oh, there's no, whatever, query selector input dot value, as you can see ASDSD is stored over here. So if you ever have access to the DOM element of an input box, उसके dot value पे आप उसकी अंदर की value, you can extract the value inside. Same thing we are doing here, and TypeScript is no longer complaining because we told it that this username ref is going to store HTML input element, and the password ref is also going to store HTML input element. All right. Username we got, password we got. What do we have to do next? We have to do a axios.post. Now this is the dumb way to do it. http://localhost. You can do this also, but generally it's a good idea कि आप अपने backend का URL कहीं store कर लो. Create a file. Wow, there's a brutal accident happened outside. I could hear it. Anyways, config.ts export backend URL equal to. Yeah, people are screaming. I'll be back. I'm Indian in the end. I can't miss drama. All right. Export const backend URL is this. And now I can import this everywhere, including the sign up component. I've imported it over here. I'm using it over here. Again, I'm using the slightly more complicated syntax of joining strings. You can keep things simple if you want. You can do this backend URL plus /API/v1/signup, comma, and here I can pass whatever data I want, which in our case is going to be username and password. That should hopefully send a request to the backend for the user to sign up. Await. To await, make this an async function. That should hopefully send a request to the backend to create a new user. And then let's say we can just alert, okay, you have signed up, something like this. Let's see, does it work? Let me start the backend locally. I need to start Mongo, which means I need to start Docker. So it's going to be a process. Docker seems to be running. So Docker PS, yeah, Mongo isn't running. So let me quickly run Mongo. It's probably not on my machine anymore. So it'll pull Mongo and then it'll happen. So let's wait for MongoDB to start locally on my machine. Then I will start the backend and then we'll see signing up happening or not. Alrighty, the database is up and running. Let me go to the, how do I go to the backend? File, add folder to workspace. Let me add the backend folder here. Cohort 3/brainly/ oh, that's it. So let me add the backend. Let me create a new terminal for the backend and do npm run dev here. That should start the backend connected to my local database. Go back to the website, refresh. All right, username Harkirat, password, let's say 123 random. Click on sign up. There we go. Seems like something is happening. I'm sending a request to the backend. I'm sending some wrong payload here. That looks totally wrong. All right, two things I see wrong. Firstly, coarse errors, easy to fix. Go to the backend index or index.ts. There we go. Import coarse from coarse and app.use coarse. When you try to do this, you see TypeScript errors because I haven't yet installed coarse over here. npm install coarse at types/coarse. npm run dev. Now if I try to sign up, you have signed up. That looks decent. The only problem is I'm still sending the wrong payload. So let's figure this out next. All right. In signup.tsx, I am getting username ref.current.value. Username ref is being passed down to the input. I'm doing a ref equal to ref here. There's no reason for this to not work. But let me do a console.log of username. Username ref dot current maybe, and see what's up. Let's go back here. Let's look at the console. Clear the console. Click on sign up. It says it says undefined. Question is why? This one's going to be interesting. Here's how I would debug it. I would comment this and create my own input box here. Input ref equal to username ref. Then see, does it work over here? That's fine, some type error, but we don't have to worry about that just yet. Input type and placeholder equal to hi there. I see hi there. Sign up, and now I see the input box here. But if I pass the ref down, probably can't use this name, huh? That should hopefully fix it. Seems like I'm sending the right data now. The only thing is the shape of the data is incorrect. I'm sending data, username, password. I need to send simply username and password. So now if I try to sign up, Harkirat, password 123 random, you'll notice it says you have signed up. And if I look at the payload, that looks right. If I open MongoDB Compass, go to Brainly. You see the user over here. Let me add another user. And you see the other user here. So we have an end-to-end integration, a front end that's able to talk to a back end that's able to put data in a database. Next up, sign-in endpoint. All right, getting to the sign-in endpoint, we need something similar there. So let's just copy from sign up. Go to sign in, add all the logic that we added. Import useref, backend URL, Axios, and send a request to /sign-in, not sign up. And this time we do care about the response because using this response, we'll get the token and store it in the local storage. So we get the response. We don't have to alert. What we can do is we can store the response.data.token in Axios. Response.data has the final data that the backend has returned you. Response.data.token has the final JWT that you got. So JWT is this, and I can do a local storage.set item token JWT, something like this. Cool. One thing I should do here is redirect the user to the dashboard. We haven't done that yet. And when the user clicks on the button, call the sign-in function. I should rename this to sign-in and pass down the refs. So reference equal to username ref, reference equal to password ref. There we go. Yeah, that looks decent. Button Let's see, does it work? Let me go to Google Chrome. Let's sign up again. Admin. Sign up succeeded. Go to sign in. Admin. I get back a token. Response.data.token. There we go. I store it in local storage. Let's see. Application, local storage. Do I see the token here? There we go. Token has been stored over here, which is great. Now I need to redirect the user to the dashboard. How do you do that? If you have React Router DOM installed, navigate equal to use navigate. I think I keep forgetting this between Next.js and React, but I think this is it. There we go. Navigate the user to the dashboard, and similarly, I think on sign up, you can navigate the user to /sign in. So when I sign up, admin2, I reach the sign in page. I reach the dashboard. Now let's finish the dashboard APIs. All right. You might find me silent coding for a bit. I'll explain as time comes by, but my throat's not really helping me out here. Let's try to wrap everything over here also, like connected to the backend. So in dashboard.tsx, what do you think should happen? I mean, the first thing is this modal we need to start. We need to make sure it works. So let's go to the model, content creation model. Here, all we have to do is on click equal to add content function, add content, which will again needs to get the title and the link over here. Maybe a third thing we need is the type, which can be Twitter or YouTube. But let's not go there just yet. Const title ref equal to use ref. Const the other one would be link ref, and then pass them down as references. There we go. Yeah, given these two references that have been passed down, I can now get const title equal to title ref dot current dot value, and link equal to link ref dot current dot value. Now again, optional chaining and adding some types over here should fix the TypeScript errors. What does our backend expect? Let's see. It expects link and type. What are we writing? Link and title. There's no concept of a title. Oh, actually there is, so that's good. The third thing we need is a type. It should, yeah, we can do a few things here. Const type comma set type equal to use state, let's say YouTube. Or actually ideally you should define this as an enum, considering we have TypeScript. So enum content type is YouTube equal to YouTube, and Twitter equal to Twitter, something like this. And here I can say content type dot YouTube. This is just easier, right? There are two variants. कुछ random नहीं डाल सकता मैं अभी यहाँ पे. Versus if I was writing strings, I could have a typo in here. But if I'm using enums, I have to define it once correctly, then there's no scope of a typo anymore. So make it YouTube by default, and along with the input boxes, we should maybe add two buttons below it. Okay, what is the type? So div and yeah, button text equal to YouTube. And I would say variant equal to, if the selected type is type equal to content type dot YouTube, then it is going to be the primary button, else it is going to be the secondary button. The same is going to be true for our second type here, which is Twitter. Alrighty, we have two buttons, and when you click on the first button, what happens? When you click on the first button, we want to set the type to be types dot content type dot, I would say, YouTube, and the second one needs to set it to content type dot Twitter. It is updating this state variable type based on what button is clicked. So if I click on YouTube, this becomes YouTube, this remains purple. If I click on this, I can select the type, basically something like this. So now let me, also add an h1 here, call it type, and then put these inside a flex diff gap dash 4, something like this. Gap dash 2, gap dash 1, and p dash 4. There we go, something like this. Okay, what is the type of this link? Is it YouTube? Is it Twitter? And then the submit button at the end. Cool. The problem is, as you can see, it's very opaque, this specific input box. We should fix that. Here we are setting opacity 60. We're trying to override it, but we're not able to. How to make child opacity full when parent opacity is less? Something like that. Exactly, that's what we need. Oh, yeah, we can't do that, unfortunately. We're using opacity separately. What they've said is just use a color with opacity. We can actually do that. Yeah, let's go to sorry about that, our Tailwind config. Let's add another variant of gray 50, which is going to be RGBA, a different representation of a color with, this, I don't know what this will be. This will probably be black. No, RGB, this will probably be red. 0, 0, 0, 0.5, which means 0 red, 0. No, actually it needs to be full. For it to be black, it needs to be 255, 255, 255. So 255 red, 25. If you mix red, green, and blue in similar proportions, you get black with half opacity. Now, I don't have to set opacity to be 60. I can simply set background color to be gray dash 50, something like that. And hopefully, yeah, you can't use RGBA here, can you? How about this? Let's see. Yeah, can't say it's opaque. Yeah, it's always these issues that get you. Tailwind opacity of parent not affect child. I'm not understanding what you're telling me to do. You can try make 3 panels. Suggestion is not bad. If we absolutely position it, let's try it out. Let's revert everything and position dash absolute for the, that's the one right now, the one below it, sorry, my bad. Actually, this one might also work. Let's see. And content, nope, completely opaque. Let's try it for the child, still completely opaque. Yeah, what can we do? How can we make the background opaque but the child not? Okay, what if we do this? Fixed top dash 0. Let's try that. Doesn't change anything, even if I am overriding it here. Okay, let's do this. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, I got it. We will have one div that will be opaque and fixed. So if it is open, I'm not going to render just one div. I'll render two divs. एक जो पूरा background को opaque करेगा, and another one that will just render the model on the center. I will have two separate very big divs on my screen. So what I'll do is, KR, start off with a div, and this with a div, and inside this I'm going to have two children. Let's see. The first one is just going to be this, which is a div which has full width, full height, background color. It's just a very opaque thingy, this. And then I'm going to have another one. Another very similar one with full opacity. Now I don't care about changing the opacity anymore. So opacity -100 or just get rid of it. And iske andar I'm going to put the rest of the content. That way, this is going to make the full background light gray. This is going to render the model on top. And there we go. Oh, actually, I need to do a BG transparent here or something. I'll just remove it and remove top 0. And there we go. Refresh. Content. Oh, this needs to be top dash 0. I need to remove it from here. That's my bad. And there we go. That's exactly what we needed. Close, add content, close, add content. Beautiful. One more thing I would like to do is justify center. There we go. PB-2. There we go. Looks pretty good. We need another variant of a button that's slightly smaller, but here that works. Maybe some more padding on the modal. And it's fine. I think it's decent enough. Yeah, let's not worry too much about more styles. Cool. All right, this is going to be my title. Let's say Twitter post. This is going to be my link. Let me find a Twitter tweet. Oh, very cool. This is what we're building, guys. And Twitter and submit. Now clicking on submit, what does it do right now? Gets the link in the title. The type is already here. And I can do a await axios.post backend URL /API/v1/content. I think, let's see. Yeah. With this data right here, to make this async. What is the data? There is link, type, and title. Link, type, and title. So link is going to be the link, title is going to be the title, type is going to be the type. That looks perfect to me. This type will automatically get converted to a string. The enum doesn't really go to the backend. Enum is a JavaScript concept. The backend could be in Golang. तो वो खुद ब खुद string में convert हो जाएगा. It will get converted to YouTube. And the only other thing is I have to send a header, which is going to be an authorization header, which is going to get the token. There we go. Cool. Yeah, seems like add content should do what it's supposed to do. Let's see. Let me right click, inspect, go to the network tab, click on submit, and sure enough, it says content added. Let me submit this one more time just for kicks. I have the same content added twice. How do we know it will work? We will know it will work if we fetch the content here from the backend as well. So rather than hard coding it in my, whatever dashboard.tsx, I've hard coded these two cards. Let's not do that. Let's get all the cards from the backend over here, let's say. Or here is a fancier way to do it without recoil, or you can use recoil as well. Let's create a folder called hooks, inside which I'm going to create use content.tsx. Export function use content. I'm creating a custom hook where I'm saying, okay, hey, const data, comma, set data, or more specifically content, comma, contents, or all content pieces, comma, set contents equal to use state empty array, return contents, and yahan pe I'm going to add an effect that is going to do a axios.get on the backend URL/API/v1/content. This should give you back all of your content. So const response equal to this. Set contents to be response dot data dot. I need to await this. You can't await inside. You can't have an async use effect, so I can just do dot then response, and yahan pe I can write set contents to be response dot data dot. What does the backend return? For get contents content. So something like this. There we go. That should do it. I don't need this. We should have a catch over here. If there's an error, we should catch it. But this use content hook now. Oh, I almost missed this. Axios.get this with a few headers. Again, headers remains the same. Authorization header would be local storage.get item token. Cool. Yeah, that looks decent, hopefully. If I go to dashboard.tsx, I can now write const contents equal to use contents. I did export this, or use content, whatever my hook was called. And yahan pe, rather than rendering cards essay, with hard-coded values, I can iterate through contents.map. क्या क्या आता है content में? Most probably there'll be a type, a link, and a title. And that is what we render over here. Okay, type is going to be the type that's in the array. Link is going to be the link that's in the array. Title is going to be the title that's in the array. If you want to make this look cleaner, you can also do something like this. There we go. All right. Does it work though? Seems like it does. I see Twitter post. If I open it, it takes me to the right post, but I don't see an embed. Yeah, I don't know why. Let's try a YouTube video. Add content. Harkirat latest video. Go to YouTube and select, I don't know. God, my YouTube's like messed up. This one, YouTube video, and click on submit. Let's refresh. And hopefully the YouTube embed looks fine. It does not. Okay. I think I know what might be wrong. Let's render the contents over here. आ क्या रहा है backend से देखें तो जरा. Contents. It has a link. It has tags. It has title. It does not have a type field. Do we have it in MongoDB? Let's see. Contents don't have a type. We never store that in the database, so we should fix that. Let's go to the MongoDB schema. And let's add another field here called type, which we're keeping as string for now, but this can also be an enum because it's limited to 2 values. And I think Mongoose also supports enums. I'll keep it as string over here. I'll go to my backend and ensure whenever we're putting data. Oh, we're already doing that. We're sending a type. I just never added it to the schema. I just added it. Now it should be fine. So let me get rid of all my old, slightly broken contents. and try to re-add some. So add content, YouTube video. This was the video that I'm going to paste and submit. Hopefully it worked. We'll add some feedback, don't worry. Refresh YouTube video, and does it return? It returns me the title, the link, the tags. It still doesn't return me the type. Does the type reach the database? It probably doesn't. I didn't restart the backend, did I? Let me restart the backend and then try it one more time. YouTube, submit, refresh, and there we go. It works now. The contents database gets the type YouTube here. Let me delete the wrong one. And there we go. Let me get rid of the very big JSON. And there we go. That's my first item. Let me add some tweets. Good tweet. It's going to be of type tweet. Let me go to twitter.com. Let me find something interesting. Yeah, oh, there we go. Finally, some bull market predictions. Tweet, submit, refresh. And I see a good tweet over here. I see the embed. So I can keep adding content. Now you might ask a lot of questions, a lot of good questions. Okay, Harkirat, when the content has been added over here and submit has been clicked on, why doesn't the model automatically close? Why doesn't the embed automatically appear over here? That's a beautiful question. And that is where you need recoil. This will not be enough. If you want to automatically put the content over here, what we have done, the hook we have created is not enough. Unless you re-trigger the hook, or what you can do is this. You can start an interval here, set interval. Okay, every 10 seconds, I will refresh the user's content. Every 10 seconds, I will rerun this code. So I can actually move this code to a function refresh. And I'm going to call the refresh function once inside the use effect, and then every 10 seconds here. And for the people who know cleanups, you also know you need to clean up this interval. So let interval is this, and here just clear the interval. Now every 10 seconds it will refresh things from the backend. So now if I try to add, let's say this again, submit, close it, and just wait for 10 seconds, I see the next tweet over here, which is good. You should have that. We need a delete button here. Pretty simple to add. You should add it. What else? What we can do is we can actually return the refresh function from here. This can return contents and a refresh function. And again, all of this you get if you use a library like React TanStack query or React query. But if you want to do it manually, you can do this. Refresh yahan aaya hai. And when the user, let's say whenever the model closes, let's add an effect. If the model closes, I'm going to refresh all my contents, refetch the contents from the backend. So now if I click on add content and add a random, whatever tweet here and some data here, click on Twitter and click on submit. If I add the logic to close the model also on submit, which we should. So let me do that first. Inside the model, I should add logic to whenever add content succeeds, we should just close the model. So I should call on close over here. Ab kya hoga? Whenever I click on submit, model closes and a request goes to the backend. Of course, this breaks over here. And we have too many tweets in one row, very easily fixable in Flexbox. Let's see. Let's go here. Div. All right, parent div, and this one right here. This one right there. We go. So this one has how do you do it? Flex wrap. There we go. Flex dash wrap. So the question is, how do you add that in Tailwind? Flex wrap Tailwind. There we go. So let's add that to dashboard right there, and we're good to go. Let's go here. We have everything, seems like it. Add content. Let me add a YouTube video. We don't have the best validations, which is something scam story. YouTube video, submit, and you see the YouTube video over here. Then feel free to add more. Let's say there's another YouTube video here. Hey, this video is fixed now. There was like syncing issues here before. That's good. Something's up without. Yeah, something was up. Seems like we're fine now. Cool. Title Web3 video. Paste it. Submit. I see the Web3 video over here. There is my second brain, guys. And you can add functionality ke haan, agar YouTube pe click karo ya Twitter pe click karo, you only see filtered tweets and filtered YouTube videos. The one thing that is left is allowing the user to share their brain. Can you guys figure that out? What needs to happen when you click on this button? The share brain button. We need to do this thing. On click equal to. I need to send a request to Axios.post backend URL /API/v1/share/ what was it? API v1 brain share. All right, there we go. And I'm going to send whatever share true. What was it? What does it expect? Share. So share true. Axios async await const response equal to this thing, and then I just need to copy to the clipboard, which the response dot data dot hash. So something like const URL or share URL equal to whatever your website is, which in our case is just the front end right now, which is localhost 30005173. So there are better ways to do this. You should store this in the config as well, but let me do this for now. There we go. That's how you generate a share URL, and then you need to copy to the clipboard. So copy to clipboard JS copy. Oh, my internet is down. Copy to clipboard JS. Interestingly enough, my internet is down. Let me alert it for you guys, so you can see it. It's working as expected, and you can just share that with the world. You can also add window.clipboard. I forgot the function you have to run to copy over a text to the user's clipboard. All right, let's go here. Let's refresh. When I click on share brain, nothing happens. My internet is down, which is why everything is gone bonkers here. But the point is, why doesn't share brain work? Gets a 500. JWT must be provided. It's telling you. The error is you haven't provided the JWT. So JWT is going to be, or whatever, headers are going to be authorization, which is going to be local storage dot get item token. All right, let's try that out one more time. What do we want to try out? ShareBrain. And there you go. It gave me this link. I can share this link with the world. Now I need to make the front end for this. Okay, whenever the user is on /share/ any random endpoint, we show the brain of that user. And whenever the user is on /dashboard, you see their own brain. But I'm hoping that is straightforward to build. You have to just, I say it's straightforward to build, then I just build it. But you get the idea. /share/share ID should go to some other component. And wahan pe you need to somehow get this share ID, figure that out. Then you need to hit the backend and render the sort of view again with that other person's second brain. All right, cool. That's how you build it. Hopefully that was straightforward. Let me push it. 100x devs cohort 3. Oh, you'll find a link in the comments somewhere. You'll find it on 100x devs cohort 3. So github.com/100x devs cohort 3, where you'll find a Brainly final which will have the front end and the back end that I've written until this point. There are still things to add, like ShareBrain functionality, as you can see, is slightly incomplete. Maybe add a logout button over here that lets the user log out. Standard things like, if you're in the landing page and if you're not logged in, then you get redirected to /signup. Sign up page has a button that says already signed in. Click here. You click that, you go to the sign in page. If you ever go to the sign up page or the sign in page and you are already logged in, you get redirected to the dashboard. Things like these are things you should add. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Let me know how it was, or what are the other things we should do. Number one, we should understand how and when you need recoil here. State management libraries are becoming less and less useful thanks to things like custom hooks and async components in Next.js. We'll talk about it later when we reach Next.js. But you still need it for some use cases. We'll talk about those use cases. That's one. The other thing is we are doing very raw, extremely raw queries using Axios. It might be nice if we use a library like React Query and make our lives a little bit easier. Cool. Try both of them. Next one. Bye bye.